got that nerd rage. Nerd rage. I got that nerd rage.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Nerd Rage Podcast. I am Ryan Anderson, and joining me to my left, as always, is the Skype Man, Hype Man,
Brad Learman.
What's up, buddy?
Man, it has been a while.
Let's see, I'm looking at my watch. It has been far too long, I think. That's probably the good answer for it. So we talked about this, I think, on Avengers Endgame, the reacts that we did, how, things got a little crazy. We are back, and I am so happy to be talking about the things that we love. I'm kind of considering this one to be a bit of a repilot where just for anyone who's new to the show, because Lord knows I met a whole bunch of you at different conventions and all sorts of stuff while we've been gone these past 6 months, maybe even longer. But if you guys indulge us for this episode, we're going to actually kind of go through everything that we missed and hope that you enjoy it and get introduced to some new things that we're bringing to the table. So, Brad, how's it been?
Not too bad, actually.
Any progress with graphic design stuff? How's things out in the Midwest?
I've actually got a interview coming up soon.
Hey, all right, cool. You gonna do some motion stuff, or what are you doing?
Yeah, it will be a motion design position, so it's kind of right up my alley.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that pans out.
And I'm actually taking on some new work too. A little behind the scenes thing is now I've got a really nice job that's working things out. And we've also got some stuff with the studios too that are helping us out. So I'm going to get to that in a little bit. But yeah, it's honestly just good to be back. For those of you who don't know, I am Ryan Anderson, and former model and actor, and all kind of entertainment everyman of sorts. And Brad, what's a little intro for people who've never met you before?
Oh gosh, former Division II baseball player, movie buff, graphic designer. I do motion stuff, print stuff, book design. Yeah, that's kind of what I do.
And the best wingman a guy could ask for. So yeah, I appreciate it. So let's do a new little segment that we're calling Need to Know Top of the Show, where we're just going to kind of tell you guys about everything that's been going on either while we've been away or what's to come for the week ahead. Because every week I want to make sure that we're getting new episodes out to you guys. And our new thing, if you follow us on Twitter at the Nerd Rage Pod, I'm going to have a weekly list of when our episodes are dropping so you guys can know when to expect them, all that stuff, and more to come definitely down the road. So for the Need to Know Top of the Show, kind of what I said before is thank you guys for kind of bearing with us and listening to our reacts while we've been gone. We've got a lot to cover and a lot to do it in a short amount of time. Obviously, this week's episode is going to be kind of just covering our usual, which is DC, Marvel, and miscellaneous. And then for the big talk, which is our end of the show segment where we just talk about one big thing in specifics that's everyone's talking about. That will be Marvel at San Diego Comic-Con for the first time, I think, in at least a couple of years, and what the implications of them being there. Is it going to be Phase 4? What is it going to mean for their bigger universe? I want to say a shout out real quick to everyone who's been trying to help us along the way. We did lose our tech back around December, and it's been a slow build back to greatness, and I would say we're about 75% there. So that,
yeah, I would say so.
But yeah, and we've got new stuff coming in with the Patreon, and new stuff coming in with our t-shirt store on TeePublic. Lots of cool stuff coming down the pipeline, and I'm sure I'll think of some more down the road, but I just wanted to bring that up here, and I think we should just get right into the good stuff, huh? How about it, Brad?
Let's do it.
All right, cool. So as we like to do, we do DC, Marvel, or miscellaneous. I pitch it to Brad. He gives me one of them at random, and then we move into it and just talk about what's been going on. For this week's episode, just because we're catching up on so much, Brad and I are going to kind of skim through the stuff instead of going into a longer conversation about stuff. Yeah, Brad, what would you like to do this week? Do you want to do DC, Marvel, or miscellaneous to start things off?
Oof. Let's do miscellaneous.
Miscellaneous it is. Okay, so first I have here is Ghostbusters 3. Have you followed any of Ghostbusters?
I heard something about maybe a couple weeks ago, or maybe a month, I think, maybe,
Okay.
that there was Ghostbusters 3 was sort of being planned.
Yeah. So as of right now, Ghostbusters 3 is not going to continue on with the 2016. I don't want to say a debacle because it was a okay movie, but they're saying, well, that was that. We're going back to the original material, which is cool, and they're not trying to put out the ladies this time. There's a good mix of kids, ladies, and the original cast coming back too. Not to mention Paul Rudd is joining the cast. So are you excited to see kind of what a new generation of Ghostbusters and some other funny people bring to the table this time around?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, me too. Next up, I want to bring up Men in Black. Did you get to see Men in Black International?
I didn't. However, I heard it was sort of a dumpster fire of a movie.
It's weird. So I've heard that it got what some people call the worst kind of review a movie could get, where it was just fine. Like, it didn't have any highs or any lows. It wasn't super good. It wasn't super bad. It was just super bland across the board. So I have yet to see it, and I had a chance, but I ended up choosing Shaft, which Shaft is great. I'm going to bring that up really quickly later. I loved Shaft so much. I think it's the most I laughed in a theater the entire year. I swear to God.
Damn, I need to see that movie.
Yeah, it really caught me out of nowhere. I was like, okay, Warner Brothers is actually inviting us to this. Like, I don't want to be impolite. I'll check out Shaft. Why not? I haven't seen the 2002 one, or maybe it was 2000 version that came out all those years ago. But I came into this to have a general understanding of Shaft, and I was like, it was really good. Men in Black, on the other hand, I don't know if I'm even going to get around to it at this point, but it bombed pretty hard. And we'll be talking about how the summer movies have pretty much been bombing if you're not Marvel or DC in a little bit here. Lion King. Have you been following Lion King at all?
Yes.
Do you have any concerns? Because I'm starting to, and I'm starting to see a little bit of on the internet, but people aren't really speaking up because they don't want to sound insensitive about it. What are your concerns about Lion King?
It looks boring.
Okay, that's interesting. Like, that was not the take I was getting.
So the main issue I have with a lot of these Disney remakes that are being made in full 3D,
right?
What's the point? Are they just milking the franchise? Probably,
yeah.
The only thing that the remakes bring to the table are graphical enhancements. All the people are actual actors and actresses.
Oh, sure, yeah. Visually more stunning, but nothing else really specific to the table.
And plus, with the Lion King, just from the trailer, the coloring of all of the environments and the characters looks so dull. It looks extremely dull.
Okay, so you're getting closer to where I'm at with this. So, in my opinion, like, I love the story. You could tell it to me backwards and forwards, and I'd still be all in for it. And I love the fact that they, embraced a more, Africanized cast, if you will. And I think that's awesome. But at the same time, my first concern was Amanda and I, like, she's super big into Disney and all that stuff. So we go to, like, Hot Topic and we're looking at Funko Pops and she's so excited. And then she looks up at them and she's like, they look kind of mean. Is that how they're going to look in the movie? I'm like, probably not. But, they gave them, like, piercing red eyes and stuff like that. And I think the point I want to make really is that I think there's a time where realism becomes too real. And I think it might end up hurting this movie because Disney has had this very mixed response with trying to make things so real that it's almost kind of like Batman v Superman territory, where, like, they forgo the musical numbers, or they forgo, some of the things that got them to the dance and made people really love it. And I'm a little concerned about Mulan in the same way. Mulan just dropped this week, actually maybe even a day or two ago, and there's no musical numbers. All of the kind of quirky, fun little characters that were added for people's enjoyment are kind of tossed so that this kind of feels more Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon-y, if you will, which I don't think is bad, but I think there's a life to some of these things that Disney made wholly their own. Just like Little Mermaid too. Little Mermaid was another one that came out, news that dropped out this week. And again, people are saying like, oh, well, if it's going to be real, they still need to incorporate some of the music, because the one that works so well this year, Aladdin. Did you get to see Aladdin?
No, I skipped it.
See, Aladdin is really good. Like, not only, do they do a good job of actually making you kind of forget Robin Williams in a respectful way, obviously, because Will Smith is just so good in the role. Like, he brings an energy to it that feels uniquely his, and I really genuinely loved it. Plus, they had a couple more musical numbers. Jasmine actually has something to do other than being just kind of the damsel in distress through the whole thing. So I actually really recommend Aladdin. I'm trying to think. There was another one. Oh, it was Dumbo. Did you get a chance to see Dumbo at all this year?
Nah, I skipped it. Most of these Disney remakes, I'm skipping because I have no interest in watching them.
Well, I want.
Except Mulan. The trailer looked good for Mulan.
You like Mulan? Okay, I should have asked you what you thought. Yeah.
I like martial art movies.
I was gonna say you love that kind of cinema.
You're gonna get me with Mulan with that trailer, so
that makes sense. I totally see why you would dig that. Okay. So with Dumbo, I thought it was really interesting, and I wanted to bring this up, but we weren't officially back yet. But I really liked Dumbo. It was like beautifully sad. I think that's probably the best way to put it. And
it's a bit of a melancholy story.
Yeah, but the way Tim Burton handled it though was like almost even extra heavy-handed, and not in a really bad way. I could see why some people wouldn't like it, but my favorite thing, and I don't have any personal ill will towards them, but it was almost kind of like he was giving his middle finger to the Disney establishment, where they were like, okay, here's, you know how Marvel is kind of in that cookie cutter sense where they go, oh, well, it's, these all have to kind of look the same way. They all have to have a certain amount of jokey beats to them, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. And again, not a diss at Disney or Marvel, but it's like, they become a bit formulaic, and it's working, so good for them, obviously. But I think he went in and he was just like, no, here's the story about this big corporate overlord who's trying to tell people how to think, act, and do, and I'm just gonna, speak to the freedom and independence of one's creativity and expression to be true to themselves, and I think that's why that movie works so well for me. Even though it wasn't super perfect. And the performances are great too. You would have loved Michael Keaton in this role. He was great.
Michael Keaton was in Dumbo?
Yeah, he was like the big bad. Like they give him like this white wig and everything, but
is he like the circus owner or something like that?
Yeah, like the Big Deal Circus. Because kind of the whole story, it's less about Dumbo and his life. It's actually more a story about how the little guy can get trampled by the big guy, and how honestly that speaks so true to everything. I'm like, not even in just my own life, but like the things I see around, people are just getting swallowed up by these bigger companies lately. And there's a lot of monopolization. I'll just say that. So
you're not wrong.
Interesting how he incorporated that into a Dumbo movie, but he pulled it off in a way that kind of worked. Moving on here. We have Hobbs and Shaw coming up. Are you excited for this film? I don't know how to feel right now. Like, what is your take?
It looks. I'm trying to find the best description of it. It's going to be like 48 hours times 1,000, I think.
Yeah. Okay. That'll be interesting. I haven't really thought about it in that light. Okay. It seems like an okay kind of like buddy cop thing, which, again, I'm going to actually bring up Shaft again, which I was not expecting it to be that. Shaft works as a buddy cop movie. I really liked what they were doing with the father and son dynamic. This, I like the jokes, but I could care less that it has Fast and Furious on it. Like, you could have told me that this was Jake and the Fat Man, and I probably would have been all over it. Like, it just, their humor is what's really working for me. I don't care about the guns. I don't care about the explosions. There's some cool CGI, sure. How do you feel about Black Superman?
Black Superman?
Yeah, Idris Elba's character. He keeps referring to himself as Black Superman in the thing.
Oh yeah. I just think he's hyping his roll up a bit.
For sure. Well, he says it in the movie too, and then
he's a genetically modified person, soldier.
Just to double down on it, then they have The Rock go, he really is Black Superman. I'm like, yeah, we get it. And like the nostalgia or the effect of hearing it the first time kind of wore off when you have someone repeat it that many times. But I don't know. I guess more Fast and the Furious is good, but it doesn't even really feel like this is about cars
Fast
anymore.
And Furious. This is going to be the official spin-off now. It's just two guys that hate each other that are working together.
But again, it's all about family.
That is not.
No, I know. That's always just like the through line with all these Fast and the Furious movies. I even heard that about this one. I was like, I mean, I guess because like The Rock meets Joe Anoa'i, which is for wrestling fans, that's more Samoa Joe. Or I mean, oh man, someone's gonna crucify me for that. Not Samoa Joe. I'm sorry. I meant to say Roman Reigns. And then Vanessa Kirby, I think, is in this one, who's supposed to be Shaw's daughter or sister or something like that. I need to go back and watch some of these movies.
Honestly, this is probably one of those movies where the storyline doesn't matter and the action is going to be the only thing that matters.
Oh yeah, this is. I like to say that these movies have like Jurassic Park, Jurassic World kind of syndrome, where it's like you can present this to a foreign audience. They don't have to care about the dialogue or why the story matters. They just see big explosions. They see big movie stars and they go, take my money. You know, like that's why like even Aquaman works so well, is because it was a lot of bigness to it, you know? Anyway, we'll definitely get to Aquaman a little bit here. So moving on from there, we also have like Frozen 2 and It 2. They had their trailers recently. What do you think about some of these movies that were coming out? Are you excited for either of them?
I do like the cast of It 2.
I really
do like
too.
The adult cast.
Yeah. Any particular standouts?
I think James McAvoy's in it. Bill Hader's in it.
Yeah.
It's I think Jessica Chastain's in it. This is going to be a pretty. I'm hoping it's going to be an extremely solid movie.
Yeah, me too. It's so hard to kind of define it, but like, I think with everything we got in the first one, if they just continue that and add a little bit more to the story, I'm fine with it. They've got my money at this point, you know. Like that trailer is a little weird because like the naked grandma demon, whatever you want to call it, that Pennywise turns himself into, is a little extra unsettling. Like, I don't need to see old people running around naked in an apartment, but I guess if it's freaking me out, it's doing what it's supposed to.
I mean, if they're gonna go like, I don't know if that's according to the book, but like if they're gonna go super creepy and horror with it, go with it. Just go for it.
I mean, being as authentic or as close to authentic with the material as possible is always a good thing. I really enjoyed what we got from Stephen King earlier this year with Pet Sematary. There were some deviations, obviously, but what they did, I actually liked it better than the previous version because, well, let's just say one of the characters who is evil that didn't make a lot of sense because it's like, how do you get scared of that thing? They decided to change it to somebody else or something else.
Are you talking about Curry's character?
I'm bad with the name. No, I'm talking about Pet Sematary.
Oh, Pet Sematary.
Yeah, that came out earlier.
Are you talking about Jonathan Lithgow?
No. Oh, Jonathan Lithgow, always my favorite. He can never do wrong. I'm talking about the evil characters. Well, I don't want to ruin it. Some people probably haven't seen it. I actually know people. I was talking
Me included.
this last week who have not seen it yet and plan to. They're just waiting for it to come out on Blu-ray or whatever. So they make a change. I think it works better. And then maybe when you do see it, we can do a reacts to it or something. Because that's the other thing too. We are doing retro reacts. I should have mentioned that at the top of the show. We're going back to some of the things that we missed along the way. And we're going to be covering over some of that stuff, including a couple episodes that will be dropping right around the time of this episode. So as for Frozen 2, do you have any allegiance to that film? Like, I know it made such a big deal when it first came out, but Frozen 2?
Not really.
Yeah. Like, I like it. I like the idea that's put together there. I just don't think that I'm in the demographic that it really appeals to, if that makes sense.
Precisely.
Yeah. At the same time, I've been waiting for them to make an Iceman movie. So anytime I get to see a character, whether it's Frozone or Elsa, just ride on a wave of ice, I'm kind of sold. So we'll see. But we also have more trailers. We got to see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. What do you think about Quentin Tarantino's new one?
I really like it. I'm really pumped for it.
Like, is there anything about it in particular? Is it the cast that really excites you, or just the story as a whole that's really interesting to you?
I just think that having Leonardo DiCaprio in a Tarantino movie is awesome.
Oh, it's always a good combination for sure. Like having him in what's the one I'm thinking of? Django Unchained. I was gonna say Inglourious Basterds, but that's Brad Pitt. But I just think it's funny with Tarantino too, where he's always like, "Oh, my next one is my last film, and then the next one's his last film, and the last one."
I think he said he's going to make 8 or 9 films, and I think he's on like 8 right now.
Yeah, and then the next one will come out and be like, "Well, I got this really good script," and
and then he's possibly doing the next Star Trek movie. So
it's like you read my mind
at this point.
Yeah, so I don't think he's going to end on Star Trek with his career.
I don't think so either.
And how he perceives everything. Yeah. Him doing an R-rated Star Trek is not how he ends his theatrical run, if you will. But yeah, I think it looks good. The guy who plays Bruce Lee, I am not remembering his name. I want to say it's Ludi Lin, but I think that, yeah, in the movie, there's a scene where Brad Pitt kind of goes up to him and, he takes... the guy playing Bruce Lee takes off his sunglasses, and then he kind of gives him like a beware, my hands are like deadly weapons or something like that. And then they actually have like a showdown on set, which is kind of fun. More like a sparring session, but still kind of cool to watch. The guy looks and sounds and acts so much like Bruce Lee that I actually kind of feel bad that I forgot his name, but I'm very impressed with what I'm seeing. Like, it looks like a really quality film. So, yeah, I mean, to say the least, you're really excited for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
Yeah.
Totally. Okay. I think I'd be remiss to talk about something that people aren't super positive about, and that's Sonic the Hedgehog. Since we're in all this trailer stuff, what's your take on Sonic?
Well, I think the character design is not good. However, I do think it's good that the studio decided to push back the release date. Yeah,
definitely adding some stuff there that I was going to bring up too. The whole Sonic thing is so interesting because it's like, I didn't even hate what they were doing. Like, I could see why everyone else has a big uproar about it. But like, after seeing Detective Pikachu, I know that they're capable of doing it authentically and good. Some of it, I had a working theory that they would probably get, well, I mean, if you've seen the trailer, they go through, he runs into the city, and then they kind of show Robotnik, which, by the way, Jim Carrey as Robotnik, I never thought I would be so happy to see that version of it. Like, he's so 90s Jim Carrey in this, and I'm just like, you got my money. Like, I don't even care that it's a bad Sonic. Like, they could have given me that movie as it was, and I probably would have just bought a ticket right away just because I liked that version from Jim. At the same time, though, like, I didn't hate the design as much as everyone else. I did feel like doing Gangsta's Paradise was probably not the best call. Like,
I wasn't even mad at the song choice. It's just the character model of Sonic is completely garbage.
Yeah.
I hope I'm not offending anybody, but it's not good.
I mean, you're not wrong, honestly. Like, they probably should have shortened him up and maybe even cutesied him up a little bit to, like, I don't want to say that to, like, be dismissive, but at the same time, like, I think people are still very much old school Sonic, and if you're playing to 90s sensibilities, Like, and especially with Pikachu too. Like, they made that little guy as cute as humanly possible, and still like a detective, and it worked, and people loved it. We'll talk about the box office with that in a little bit, but yeah. Do you think that we're gonna be wowed by any means when they come out with the redesign?
I think so.
You do? Okay.
They pushed back the release by about, I think, 4 to 6 months.
Yeah. No, I think it's coming around like March of next year. So yeah, it's going to be a ways before we see it now. Which I'm fine with. Again, like if you see there's a problem and you want to work on it, do it. Like, I just don't want it to get into that point where it's like, we'll probably be talking about New Mutants in a little bit with Marvel, where you just keep pushing it back and you just never put the thing out, because sometimes, and we can definitely attest to this, you push for perfection way too much and you just keep putting things off more and more. Sometimes you just got to put it out there and just get that ball rolling. Like, even if the first one does okay, you can go, okay, we'll fix this in Sonic 2. You bring in Tails, you make Sonic have a little bit different design and everyone loves it. Or you take it to, I don't know, one of the Sonic worlds instead of the real world, and people just fall in love with the sequel. Like, there's little things that you can do along the way that can fix it, instead of like spending needless hours trying to fix it until you never really put it out there, or the interest dies off too. Like, that's always a possibility as well. Yep. Moving on though, speaking of things tanking, what did you think about Hellboy? Did you see it?
I did not. I was avoiding it because it didn't have Ron Perlman.
Okay, so I put out on Twitter just recently, superhero movies, when did they start getting good? Like, a very open-ended question, and I really appreciate all the people who responded. Some people in the industry commented as well, and I really appreciate that. Someone brought up Hellboy, specifically Hellboy 2, I think, and I brought up how it's very underrated. It's a very good movie. From everything I have heard, it does not sound like this Hellboy is even watchable. Like the CGI is bad, like the mouth work, because I don't know how the prosthetics work or whatever, but like, I can't think of his name from Stranger Things. He's playing him in this role. He's just not, like, the mouth doesn't sync up with what he's saying. So it's almost like he's chewing on peanut butter as he's talking. Like there's something seems off with his mouth the whole time.
That's weird.
I've heard some of the special effects are good, some stuff with like a dragon and some hell related scenes, but the only good thing I heard, like, that really got taken away from it was Mila Jovovich, and she's the one I feel the most bad for, because I think she was looking for like a big kind of almost starring vehicle after the Resident Evil franchise kind of went away and they're trying to reboot it again. Like, do you have any desire to see Hellboy at any point?
Not really.
I'm thinking only if it comes to streaming. Like, I'm not literally paying for it. If it surprises me, like when it comes on HBO or Netflix or something like that, cool. I actually heard that it might be appearing on Amazon in the next month, which, if it's on Amazon Prime, cool. Like, again, I don't have to pay for it. So, yeah, massive bomb though. Speaking of bombs, well, this one might be my opinion, but what did you think of Terminator Dark Fate?
Trailer, the CG looked bad. Right?
Okay, I'm glad I'm not alone in this. Yeah. Do you think in any way this excites you for this movie, or like what is your stance on it right now?
It's
just messing with me.
The CG looks bad.
Yeah.
Sarah Connor herself. I'm glad that it's Linda Hamilton, right?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah.
I'm glad. I'm grateful to see her come back.
Yeah.
But
same.
In terms of everything else, I don't know. Story, don't really know much about it other than they're trying to save a female now, and we don't really have any background information on that.
Yeah. I actually heard that some of it might have to deal with like crossing over the Mexican border, which I'm sure it's going to play into some politics, and that's whatever, I guess, because...
Oh, no.
Yeah, we don't like to really talk politics here that much, but,
That's bad.
Yeah, I'm sure if it's handled very subtly, cool. Like, if they're winking to it, nice. But at the same time, like... I'd sound like a hypocrite if I didn't acknowledge the fact that I was talking about how Dumbo was playing on, kind of big world themes and all that stuff. So I don't know. I guess it could be fine, but I'm just looking at this trailer, and so the big pitch is that your Terminator splits in half. Like, he's a dual Terminator. Like, I don't get why that's supposed to make me excited. Like, it was cool because you went from like solid metal to a guy who's liquid metal. And even then, I'll be honest, I know that everyone likes T2, but at the same time, I'm just looking at it like, yeah, but he's basically unstoppable as a liquid Terminator. The fact that he got away with or that he didn't get away with as much as he should have, it was very surprising to me. Like, the fact that you have a guy who's basically liquid metal and he doesn't kill you for, like, the second he sees you is very surprising. Like, yeah. Like, if I had, and I joke about this, but like, if I had Iceman or Pyro's abilities and I really decided to just go Nutter Butters and just go on a killing spree or whatever, I could take out people and it wouldn't be met with a lot of resistance because, if you have those abilities, you should be able to take out pretty much anyone. And you shouldn't be really stopped by a slower, bulkier Terminator that's made out of just metal. I don't know. I know it's all kind of whatever and it's more for the sake of the story, but like, I just really don't know where they go with this thing. And I'm really excited to see Linda Hamilton back, but I'm also getting kind of worried about this theme now because I love to see, women kicking ass, obviously. And we've talked about that. Also why I have a problem with the way James Cameron handles it. But it's becoming kind of a theme now where like we had Halloween and Jamie Lee Curtis was doing it. I don't want to see this becoming a thing where like with Halloween, they're like, oh, we're going to make another sequel now because that one did really well. They'll probably try and do this if they bank on Linda Hamilton coming back and the movie somehow does well at the box office. They'll probably try and find a way to keep running this thing into the ground because that's what these studios do. And that's my biggest concern because it's like, if you want to do the one last hurrah thing, go full Rambo with it. Awesome. But don't do what Rambo's doing either, which is, well, we had the last one, and that seemed like his last hurrah. Now he's back for the last blood. Yeah. And then I will say, I got weirdly excited when they played that Little Nas X or whatever that guy's name is, that Old Town Road song that everyone's been jamming to. It's such a weird kind of hick rap version of a song, but they played like a slowed down version of it. I was like, it kind of works here in like the weirdest way. I know I'm transitioning obviously, but between Terminator and Last Blood, which kind of old gun are you excited to see back in the saddle again?
Oh God,
Neither.
I'd almost rather watch Last Blood at this point.
I didn't watch all of the last one from Rambo, so maybe that one's good. Friend of the show, best friend Troy, he loves that movie, so I'm inclined to believe that maybe Last Blood will be good because it seems like Sylvester Stallone picks really good movies for himself, although sometimes he doesn't, and he keeps making Escape Plan sequels that go direct to DVD. But I liked Escape Plan, so I'm not hating on it too much. But yeah, anything that comes out in theaters in a big way, as long as it's not like the fifth Expendables movie, I'm kind of excited for. So yeah, last couple things before we round out miscellaneous here. They decided to name the Kingsman prequel The King's Man. Thoughts?
No, why? That's a terrible idea.
Everyone hates this. I actually think it's simple marketing that works kind of well, because I'm willing to bet here the idea is like, who was the first Kingsman of all time? And they'll probably say like like whatever decades ago, the King of England or something like that decided to appoint or anoint someone to be his royal special guard or whatever, and they'll make him the king's man. If that's the case and that's a story, I'm intrigued by it. But if it's anything beyond that, I don't know that I care. How do you feel about the Kingsman franchise?
I like it.
Me too.
But I don't know about the King's Man title. That's just got a weird sound to it.
All right, I'm going to pitch it to you right now. New title, Kingsman prequel. What do you call it?
Let's see.
Yeah, it might be a little harder to. I put you on the spot with that one.
It's Kingsman and then Kingsman Golden Circle. Like,
yeah.
Why couldn't you just put it like
Kingsman: The First Order or something like that?
Yeah, something easier off the tongue, not that.
Kingsman: First Class. No.
No.
Just because it's Matthew Vaughn, I'm making a Vaughn joke there. But anyways, the other two that I have to mention are The Hustle and Shaft, movies that I got to see thanks to the studio. I really appreciate it. Got to see them like almost a month before they came out. The Hustle, are you familiar with this movie?
Never heard of it.
Okay, so it's basically a remake with Anne Hathaway and Rebel Wilson of Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. And that's where it stops being good because I love the idea of bringing those two together to do that story. This movie, you could have called it anything else, but it's almost beat for beat that movie. And I wanted to do a react to this one just because I came out of it with so many thoughts and feelings, but at the same time, I had a feeling you probably didn't even know this movie was even in theaters. This was back in like April, I think, when we saw it. But I love Dirty Rotten Scoundrels so much, and I totally get the ironicness and hypocrisy, I guess, maybe, of trashing a rebooted version of what came before, because Dirty Rotten Scoundrels was actually done, I think, in like the black and white days. I don't want to get
Dirty Rotten Scoundrels? No.
Yeah, no, it's actually based on something that came before that. It had a different name. It was like, I don't know, Bad People. I don't know, something like that. But it actually was inspired by a movie that came before that. And then Frank Oz came in, gave it his twist, and put two fantastic actors in the role. I mean, Michael Caine and Steve Martin. Like, if you haven't seen that and you haven't seen Planes, Trains, and Automobiles from Steve Martin, like, those are the two movies that just always get me every time I see them, for different reasons, obviously. But yeah, like, if I ever gave a recommendation, I would definitely say go and see the original, which in this case to me is Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, because The Hustle was really bad pratfalls, and you kind of know that Rebel Wilson is the one who's going to take most of the bumps. Like, that's what she does in these movies. Like, I love when you take characters like her, or actors like her, or Melissa McCarthy, and you just break convention, where you go, okay, well, Melissa McCarthy, we're going to put her in the new movie The Kitchen, which is coming out later this year. And I'm super excited about that because she's not just falling down on her face, or she's the person that's, holding on to one of the Ghostbuster guns and just flying around like the, the big goofball. Like, she's kind of kicking ass and taking names. And it's like really cool to see her not do what you'd expect of her. So yeah, when I see The Hustle, it's just like so disappointing because there are a couple lines between Rebel and Anne that are funny, but they're pretty much funny because they already were done and done better years ago. So that's my quick little review on The Hustle, if you will. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, Shaft, coming out of nowhere and just genuinely surprising me. It is R-rated. It is a surprising buddy cop thing. And I think they even reshot some of it too, because it was originally called John Shaft. And I think they were trying to play on the idea of his son taking over the mantle. And if they did reshoot it, you can't really tell, but the focus is kind of more centered between the two of them rather than making it, oh, Shaft the Next Generation. But the movie is super funny. Like, I don't know how many times Samuel Jackson said motherfucker, but he was just in prime form. Like, you could tell he was getting tired even of doing the Marvel movies. I'm sure he loves that paycheck, obviously.
Yeah.
But like, he was more Samuel Jackson than I've seen from him in a long time, and I really, really had a good time with that movie. I think you'd probably get a kick out of it too. I really do recommend it. It's probably the one that will fly under most people's radars, but should be seen if you like him and you like kind of buddy cop comedy. Oh, you know what? I forgot one more thing. I should mention this to you because we always kind of like to end our number one for miscellaneous with Star Wars. Star Wars drama. How do you feel about how the actors have been kind of coming out and dissing The Last Jedi?
Good.
I had a feeling you would. Okay. And then J.J. Abrams is now reportedly signing a deal with Warner Brothers, so he'll be leaving after episode 9. Do you think that Star Wars is in good hands anymore, or are you just genuinely worried?
No. If Jon Favreau can get his TV show to be really good, The Mandalorian, that would be a good start. But in terms of the movies, if the what is it? Rian Johnson, I hope he never makes a Star Wars movie again. The Game of Thrones writers are supposed to be making the next trilogy. That's kind of an issue because they were working. The only reason Game of Thrones was good is because they were going off of already made material, so they didn't really have to go to great lengths to write any extra story. It was all already there for him.
Right, exactly.
I think it was after season 4 or season 5, they basically just ran out of material.
Yeah.
So they were going off of notes from J.R. Martin, I think his name is. G.R. Martin? G.T. Martin?
Yeah, close enough, yeah.
So they went off of notes from him, and I would say that the show started to take a nosedive in season 8. From what I can tell, everybody was very, very, very disappointed in it.
Yeah. So, long story short, with all that, Game of Thrones, I love it. Actually, I should have put it in the notes because that was obviously a big thing that we missed while we were away. I was actually even thinking about doing like a season 8 recap, but I know you haven't really been like the Game of Thrones aficionado. So, I'll just mention I actually liked season 8. I don't think it was perfect. I think they should have added more episodes to kind of flesh out why certain characters did the things that they did. And they kind of just went like, okay, we got to go into war. We're going to fight. And then this is going to happen. And then that cool thing's going to happen. And this cool thing's going to happen. And there's going to be a character switch here. And you're not going to see it coming. And it's not going to totally feel earned unless you take a beat and think about it, why that person would do what they did. But all in all, I enjoyed it. I think maybe because I've had 7 seasons before that, and someone even debate how season 7 went, but enough content before that to make all of this stuff feel still justified. Like, you can definitely tell that they kind of rushed to the end. Oh, yeah. And I'm sure that's because they were getting kind of tired of it and they knew Star Wars was on the horizon. But at the same time, I'm not hating on it, and we're going to get a prequel series that's coming that I'm actually kind of excited for. They got a good cast for it. But, you know, we had 8 seasons. It's very typical with HBO shows to get down to the very ending, and then people go, I didn't do it the way I wanted it. And, you know, you can expect something to go a certain way, but sometimes it doesn't go the way that you want. Like I would have liked the Sopranos to have ended differently, or I kind of came in on the tail end of Lost, but I could see why people were upset with that too. It just happens, and you know, I think more than anything, the thing that I take away from it is they gave you so much good beforehand. Like I can appreciate the things that were enjoyable. Like even if there are some spots that I have towards the end that I disagree with, there's still so much more good there than there is bad. And I take away the good 9 times out of 10 over the bad. Like out of all the, Marvel movies, it'd be like getting mad because Incredible Hulk wasn't your favorite or something like that. Yeah, they're going to make some missteps along the way, but at the same time, you've got all these other good ones that, like, I don't have to go and watch Incredible Hulk to enjoy an Avengers movie, for example. Like, I have good content, I can enjoy that, and the other stuff can just be whatever. But I do feel bad for people like Troy, who I brought up a second ago, who love Game of Thrones. And by like season 7, they're like, I'm pretty much ready to move on. And we're already kind of checking out by the time season 8 came and disappointed them. So, yeah. But back to Star Wars, though.
Not in good hands.
Yeah, I really don't know how the future goes, because they recently hired one of J.J. Abrams' people from Bad Robot to help with kind of crafting the Star Wars universe. Kind of a name that isn't really talked about in, a big way, but apparently she's pretty close with JJ. So maybe if she helps craft the universe a little bit better, or they use a little bit more of Dave Filoni's influence, things will be okay. But I like the fact that Disney is like, hey, you know what? We're not going to throw everything at the wall. Even though ironically they kind of have enough still in motion that it feels like they're throwing things at the wall. But they're not doing like a million spin-offs on the film side of things. So maybe they're getting their act together. It's a weird state that Star Wars is in, and I'm sure as the weeks go on, we'll be talking more about that. So, that's it for miscellaneous. Let's move on to DC or Marvel. Which one would you like to do, Brad?
Let's do DC.
I knew you were going to say that. You won't let me have my DC. No, that's fine. So DC, the TV is a lot. So what I'm going to say is I'm just going to kind of pitch it to Brad, yay or nay. Like, what does he think? And we'll just keep this one going here. So Arrow's getting its last season. Yay or nay?
Yay.
I say nay, but that's because I had a problem with the season. Okay. Flash might be getting another scientist villain. Yay or nay?
Nay.
I know. I'm kind of with you on that. I was like, really? Supergirl. I think it had its best season ever. Yay or nay?
Nay.
You didn't like it this season?
No, from what I read, all the characters pretty much just seemed really stupid.
It was very heavy-handed, very political, very progressive in a lot of the decisions they did. They're always about that, and I get it. But at the same time, like, I'm all for them trying to, have a transgender character on the show. I think that's actually really cool. And in some points, like, she just felt very much a part of the show, until they do some of the dialogue where they're like, well, I'm special and I'm different. And
the dialogue in Supergirl has always been an issue for me.
I mean, that's CW dialogue, and I love them and I love what they're doing, but at the same time, it's just like
Supergirl does it they do it worse.
They do it in that very bold face kind of way. They're like, it's a very look at me kind of perspective. And I get it because, you're trying to do the first of everything and you're trying to be, very out there and pronounced with what you're doing, which is pretty much where my next one, which is Batwoman, comes in. Like, I'm actually kind of excited for Batwoman, but the way that they kind of, and you'll probably have even more to say on this.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I think you're going to be a nay for that one right off the bat. But the trailer where it's like they do the I'm a woman kind of thing, and then like she's being very dismissive. Like, I know after talking with certain people within these studios that it's done for that effect. Just like when in Titans they have the fuck Batman kind of line. They don't do it because it's it's super important to the story or anything like that. They're doing it so they can kind of have people go, oh, what does this mean? Like, why is Robin so edgy? And like for Batwoman's case, they go, oh, why is Batwoman have such a problem with Batman? Why is she stepping on his legacy? All this stuff. And like when you watch subsequent teasers and TV things that they've been doing, there's more context to the dialogue, but it's still a bit of an eye roll sometimes when you hear the FU
cringe.
To it all. Yeah.
It's cringe. From what the trailer presented to us, it just looks like she's very dismissive and very disrespectful to what the role of Batman actually is.
You know, I know that there's a lot of conversation about, like, you know, people changing race and people, you know, putting like women in roles where they're like, you know, fuck men. What did men ever do for us? You know, like that sort of stuff. And like,
yeah, that's a very stereotypical thing to do.
I don't even know if I'd categorize it as stereotypical, but I understand the need for someone to stand out. But I think like Wonder Woman didn't do that. Like, that's why I love Wonder Woman so much, because she came in, she just was a badass, and people respected her for how she did it. She didn't go, oh, well, all you men stand out of my way. I got this. Like, it wasn't dismissive. It wasn't like she worked with them, and, you know, she obviously kicked more ass than they did. But like,
oh yeah,
the cool thing is like, she didn't have to like put herself on a pedestal to put other people down. And I think that's the differential between how some mediums choose to portray characters and others don't. And I'm not hating on Batwoman too hard. Like, I'm sure it won't be like my favorite show, but there's still some of it that's very interesting to me. Like, it basically giving the female Batman, if you could, like the idea that Alice, who's going to be her nemesis, is basically a female Joker, and just seeing what that's like. Like, if it works, the market will speak for itself, and we'll get, you know, 3 to 7 seasons. We'll see. I mean,
yeah, and to be clear, I'm not criticizing Ruby Rose in the role as Batwoman. I'm criticizing the writing and the directors of this show. Right. That's who I'm criticizing. Yeah. Not the actors and actresses that are a part of it, because they don't really have much control on that most of the time, especially on a TV show.
Yeah. And I don't know who the person is that's, you know, I don't think it's I can't think of his name.
They're going to be writing for very long.
Well, I have some theories of who might be in charge of making some of the bold decisions that they do, but I think that those people are the ones that have got them to where they are, because there is a precedent right now for everyone to go, what is bold, what is new, what is different from what you've seen before, and like put that on a poster or put that out in media so that people go, oh, cool, like let's put some eyes on this, or let's get a conversation going about why we don't like that thing. And it's very much like the new clickbait, and I don't hate that they're doing it. I just wish that they would find a more healthy medium to push their ideas forward with. I still think Batwoman will be good. I just, you know, I think we're of the same mind, where it's just like, kind of, you roll your eye and you go, why do you have to do that?
If they pulled the tactic of Teen Titans, and the trailer was just like completely just like, well, like what the heck are they doing in this trailer?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
If they pull one of those, I might be a little bit more forgiving, but as it stands right now, the show does not look good.
I think what they're going to do, and this is just like, I haven't got the screeners yet for Batwoman. Apparently, they're shooting some of the first episodes, and we might be getting them towards like, I think it's early September, I was hearing, but that's all rumor mill, which we didn't even have time for rumor mill this week, to be honest, and we'll get that next week. But I think when the first episode drops and we start seeing the pilot, if anything, you're going to see that the story is probably going to be her. She's probably going to have this kind of brash bar, crazy lifestyle, and then Bruce Wayne goes missing. There's no Batman. The city's crying out for help. She realizes that she needs to take action, and I think what's going to happen is that she comes in cocky, and then she's humbled by being in that role. Like, she has that experience of now she's actually fighting not only for herself but for the city on a day-to-day basis, and I think it's going to slowly humble her. But she comes in like she owns everything, and that's very off-putting to someone who especially who loves comic books and really likes characters who come from nothing and build themselves up to something greater. But this could have a reverse kind of perspective where it's like, yeah, I don't know. I think I'm better than this, but then, you know, gets beaten down so many times that she kind of becomes better as a part of the experience. And I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but maybe that's how it'll turn out. Yeah. Let's keep going here. Got a little heavy-handed on that. Legends. It's possible that Constantine might get his own spin-off show. Yay? Nay? Yay for me.
I always liked that character.
Same here.
He's hilarious.
Honestly, I heard people saying like they wish that Keanu, especially because Keanu Reeves has been having such a big resurgence, so to speak, that he should come back for a sequel. And I love that, but I've really fallen for Matt Ryan's character. Like, he's just so good with that role. Black Lightning, I'm not saying it's official, but I get the feeling we're going to find out in the next year that it's going to be canceled. Why do I say that? Because Arrow's ratings were really bad this year, and we can talk to, we're blue in the face about why the reasons are, but I think it's a combination of a lot of factors, one of which was longevity, and I think that's the only thing that it doesn't really share with Black Lightning at this point. And Black Lightning it's a fine show. I actually really enjoyed the first season, and season 2 had some good elements, but I think the decision by the studio not to connect it is hurting it. Like, it should be in the same world as the rest of, Legends and Supergirl and Arrow and all that. And the fact that it's not, I think is really hurting it, because people don't feel like it's part of the greater universe. And like, with Marvel, I heard someone say, well, they got that Joker movie coming out. Why doesn't Marvel do more standalone movies or stuff that's set apart from it? I'm like, this is why. Like, the ratings just don't show justification for people wanting to see Black Lightning. I mean, maybe you can make a joke and say that maybe there's some racist types out there that just don't want to see him in that role, but there's plenty of pronounced African-American characters that are doing well in these other shows. So I don't think it has anything to do with race. I just think that the audience isn't there for it. And no matter how good or bad it gets, I'm pretty sure we're going to get a cancellation announcement from it in the next year or less. So it's unfortunate, but what is your take on Black Lightning? Yay or nay?
A bit unfortunate. Even shows that were good, like Luke Cage, didn't survive on Netflix.
Yeah.
And I think that's more so out of his control, or out of the showrunner's control and whatnot.
Yeah.
More than, that the show tanked because it sucked. No, I think Marvel played a little bit more of a hand in that than they would like to admit. Or maybe they will openly admit, but
I'll bring it up with Marvel specifically, but yeah, basically, every time they would bring out a new episode or a new season of those shows, I think it was after Defenders, they just haven't been able to recover the audience. I think Iron Fist season 2, which we talked to the showrunner, Mr. Metzner, is just an awesome interview. We highly recommend you guys go and listen to that one. I love talking to him. He was so good. But that was the only time I think that they actually did better in the second season than they did in the previous season. But it still wasn't enough, because Marvel is shifting gears. They're moving their whole television thing around, especially because of the Fox deal. So, yeah, it just sucks that these guys had to be casualties. And I'll talk about more of that when we get into Marvel. Sad for me to announce there's no more Gotham. The finale, I liked it. I mean, I could have asked for a little bit more Jokeriness and a little bit more Batmanness, and what they gave me was perfectly fine. I think it was a strong note for them to leave it on. Did you see Gotham? Okay. Well, what is your take up until now with Gotham? Yay or nay?
The whole teasing of, this is Bruce, he's going to finally become Batman, and then not to get a Batman TV show kind of sucks.
I know that. I would really have loved that, because he's like, if they put it, maybe not even on HBO, like if you carried it over to the DC universe, that would have been perfect. Yeah. And just, I mean, even if the production wasn't completely there like it was with Fox and all that, I still would have loved to have seen what they did to continue that character on, because the DCU, which is what I'm pretty much moving on to next, is just fantastic across the board.
Or, you know what, do something really crazy?
Yeah. What's that?
Let the guy who is playing Bruce Banner, or Bruce Banner. Oh my god!
Wow.
You got the guy. Yeah, I know. It's a little late.
Sorry. No, I know. That's on me.
If the guy that's playing Bruce Wayne in Gotham right now, you slowly transitioned him into playing Batman into DC movies.
Okay, yeah, I like that.
Which would be, I mean, it would be a tall task, no doubt, and that would suck because Robert Pattinson wouldn't be in the role anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, we're getting to that in a minute here for sure. But yeah, Robert Pattinson, that's our new Batman. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, I miss it. I just wish it would stay around because they had such a good Riddler, and I really love Robin Lord Taylor as Penguin too. Like he brought something different. Like he wasn't the fat guy who just owned a nightclub and shot things with an umbrella. Like he was such a well fleshed out and unique character that, man, I know it had so much more potential than it actually got to, but the things they did and covered with Batman mythology, I don't think we'll ever see that on film or TV.
Nope, we'll never see it again.
So that's what I miss about it the most, honestly. So I appreciate that. But in terms of other prequel shows that are doing well, Krypton season 2 is out and people are just loving it. And I
saw a trailer for it. It looks kind of cool. Like I kind of want to just get Sci-Fi to watch it.
Yeah. I mean, if you have like a cable network provider and then you get like the Sci-Fi Network app, you can just watch it.
I kind of want to watch it.
Yeah. Or I can give you my access to the DC universe, 'cause not just the screeners and all that stuff that I get, but like my actual subscription, and then they have all of season 1 on DC Universe right now. Yeah, and the first episode of season 2, which is very good as well. The fact that they added Lobo, there's more Doomsday, more Brainiac. I mean, just so much good stuff. It's weird that we have all these great kind of space Superman characters on this show, even though there isn't a Superman. But man, what they do with it is just so intriguing. And it starts off almost like in a very Game of Thrones way, where it's like house pitted against house, like House of El versus House of Zod kind of stuff. But what they develop it into becomes very interesting, and it doesn't feel like, how Flash got in season 2, I want to say, where it was like Monster of the Week kind of thing. It's like a real genuine story that you're following these characters on as they're trying to save the day. And you just happen to come in contact with all these great characters from the DC universe. So yeah, I totally recommend Krypton. Always a good show. I was mentioning DCU, so let's go through that really quick here. Have you seen Titans? Yay or nay?
I haven't seen it.
Still haven't. I recommend it. Definite yay. I will say probably the weakest of the DC Universe entries, in my opinion, and we'll get on that in a second. And that's not a bad thing, and you'll see why. Also, season 2 is filming right now. Ian Glenn from Game of Thrones will be Batman, which is very interesting to see. Haven't seen any photos of him as Batman yet, but we've seen the bat suit, so I'm curious to see how he looks in it, to be honest. Next up is Doom Patrol, which blew me away.
Doom Patrol looks pretty fun. I'm not going to lie.
There is one scene, I think it's the second to last episode of the first season, where there is a character by the name of Flex Mentallo, and I hope that's not spoilers for people. There is a clip of it on YouTube that, if I was to describe it on air, I feel like we'd get flagged for something. It is bizarre, it is hilarious, and it's a little unsettling in a funny way. I'll just say that. And the show is like that from beginning to end. Like, they know that they want weird, wacky, like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's just the most absurd, off the wall, but still filled with heart kind of show that I've seen in a long time. And I highly recommend it, especially as someone who likes the Misfit characters. Like we talked about how they were like the original X-Men. I mean, they came out pretty much around the same time, but they do a better X-Men, in my opinion, than the X-Men have done. as of late, because we already know that like The Gifted and all that stuff, but we'll talk about that in Marvel. Next up we have Swamp Thing, which is on right now. There was bad news about it, unfortunately. They canceled it, and it's pretty much all thanks to to North Carolina kind of effing up their budget, lying to them and telling, oh, it's going to be this and this, we're going to give you all these tax breaks, and then just coming in and going like, no, you get about half of that. So then they just struck the set pretty much, and it ruined everything for everyone. And I'm sure a lot of quote unquote insiders out there who like to make up things that I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole, because that's a whole other conversation. They'll try and tell you, oh, that the DC universe is coming to a close and it's doing terrible. The numbers just aren't there to support it. Blah, blah, blah. I'm telling you this right now. They're doing fine. Like if a network like Crackle can still exist as a free service, DC Universe is doing just fine.
Crackle, that's fucking awesome.
I will say this. I was watching Crackle the other day, and they put on that movie that was everyone was kind of speculating might be a Venom prequel. That movie Life with Ryan Reynolds and Jake Gyllenhaal. Mm-hmm. Not bad. I still really enjoy that movie. Is it great? No, not really. And do I have to pay for ads?
That
sure.
Makes perfect sense. Deadpool and Mysterio met in space. Oh my God.
It's all connected. Yeah, I know, right? But I still turn on Crackle from time to time. They have like News Radio, one of my favorite sitcoms, and News
Radio is actually really good.
I know, right? It's just sad about Phil Hartman, but
yes,
really, I if they can have that be a serviceable medium for their content, DC Universe is doing just fine. And I've talking to enough people at the studio who are like, no, everything's cool. You got to stop listening to the people who want to try and hype up their own fake BS out there. Obviously, there are problems. When stuff gets shut down, that's an issue. But it doesn't mean that we're not getting, Titan Season 2, that we're not going to get more of the good stuff that you love. I'm 90% sure we're getting Doom Patrol Season 2 because of the positive response it got and the fact that I don't think there's anything truly slowing down DC Universe. Keeping on here, as I was saying with Swamp Thing, though, it might be the best show I've seen on that network. And for compared to even network TV in a long time. I like Swamp Thing better than I like probably any of the Netflix seasons of Marvel shows. And that's pretty much saying something. I would say maybe Daredevil Season 2 is a close comparison. It's dark, it's gritty, but it still has cool moments. There is a mystical character from DC that I never thought was going to get his due, because he is kind of an out there character. But man, they've so seamlessly integrated things that probably would not have worked on any other medium and made it feel really cool. Not to mention that just the first episode alone, if you get a chance to see it, I mean, it's like they gave new life to the movie The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing.
Sure.
But kind of like in a swamp setting. And it just gets crazier from there. And I love it so much. Can't say enough good things. # save Swamp Thing. Because, man, we want more of that stuff. And I really hope that you get around to watching some of these shows, Brad.
I do too.
We've got Harley Quinn still coming. That cast that they're putting together, I'm sure a lot of people wanted Tara Strong to voice her, but having Kaylee Cuoco in that role, I really kind of dug it. We saw it last year, just kind of like the teaser that they showed us at San Diego Comic-Con behind closed doors. It just looks like they're adding a bigger and better cast every day. Just a bunch of random people from the DC universe. At the same time, I kind of want to compare it like an R-rated version of, what was the one, Batman the Brave and the Bold or whatever. And with a much better cast. I just really want to see what they do with it, to be honest. Then we've got Young Justice, which has their second part because they split the season up. They did the early half, I think I want to say February, like when Doom Patrol was just in the middle of its show, and then with Swamp Thing, they popped it in just in this last couple of weeks here. I'm loving Young Justice again. I think a half step off maybe from what it was before, because I think a lot of people like the more classic characters that they had come to know over the past few seasons there. And then, they're introducing a whole set of new characters, which are very cool. And I'm loving the fact that we're going down this deep dive of kind of more of the unknowns in the universe. But it's still really good. And honestly, in a couple episodes from now, I'm going to try and get Zeno Robinson, who plays Cyborg, on the show. So
nice.
You guys can look for having an interview with him very soon. He is a great guy, and I cannot wait to talk to him. But yeah, please go and check out Young Justice. Buy the toys, all that merchandise. It always helps support getting another season, as Greg Weisman told us. Oh man, what was that? 2016 when we met him at SD or no at
yeah. It was Chicago.
Yeah, it's Chicago. Man, nice guy, great show. Go check it out. Then I think we only have one more. Oh yeah, well I was just gonna bring up at the end here the fact about the DCU quote unquote ending. I will just say this. I've probably mentioned it enough already. DC Universe, I don't believe is imploding or exploding or whatever. I do think there is a possibility that we could hear by the end of maybe San Diego Comic-Con or a couple months after that Warner Brothers is trying to complete their branding. And one of the things that after I talked with Lisa Gregorian over on the TV side, she's the president over there, after San Diego Comic-Con last year, was that they're trying to integrate everything into one, but also respect like the tiers. Like some people are going to go, oh, I loved Warner Brothers movies, or I love DC properties, or I love Warner Brothers TV shows, but maybe not all three of those things. So they were going to break them up, was their original pitch that they had told me. So I like the idea of them doing like a 3-tiered system for a big service where you can get DC Universe, where you can get CBS All Access, and then you can maybe get like a Warner Brothers movie package, or maybe even HBO mixed in with all that. Whatever they end up doing though, them and Disney are setting up for something massive. And even if it means kind of minimizing a little bit of the DC Universe to make it a part of this huge bundle where I'm paying maybe $2 more a month, but I also get like everything Warner Brothers has, count me in, I just don't want to see anything get lost along the way. Like I don't want to see them drop Stargirl. I don't want to see them lose, Doom Patrol. I don't want to see them lose Swamp Thing. I really want them to try and keep as many of these properties going, because I think they have the next CW universe, if you will, going here, and it's so much better than that it would be a shame to see them minimize the properties and go like, well, we're going to have a small DC universe and it's going to be just Titans and then maybe small spin-offs from Titans, which I hope it's not, but we'll see. I think at the very worst that people have to worry about is that it will just kind of get folded into the bigger streaming service that they're trying to do, because that's really the thing. Warner Brothers, Universal, Disney, all these companies are trying to give you everything from their brand that they can, so that they get all of your money directly, instead of all these TV studios and all that stuff who get kind of lost in the mix. So yeah, what is your take on DC TV as of right now? Optimistic?
I would say the CW is still going to be average at best. I think the streaming platform shows that they have are probably going to get better.
Probably.
If not, they're already incredibly great.
Yeah. And I think maybe this week I'm going to share my DC universe with you, so you can start to enjoy some of the content that I've been enjoying since.
I want to see Doom Patrol. I kept seeing ads for that, and I was like, that actually looks kind of cool to watch.
I think you're really going to love it. I mean, even just for what they do with Brendan Fraser's character alone, I mean, he's just so funny. Like, I mean, he's basically just this blocky kind of robot dude, but man, they make him into one of the funniest characters that I've seen on television in the last couple of years. So yeah, I think you're going to really dig it. Let's move on to movies though, because Lord knows there's a whole lot of movie talk here too, but we'll zip through it like we did with TV. First off, Shazam, it was a hit, but not a big hit. Thoughts?
I don't think it needed to garner a ton of money.
Thank you. I agree.
Although I think I watched it. I really liked it.
Loved it. Yep. And you guys can hear our reacts to that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Would you be surprised if we didn't get a sequel from Shazam for a while?
Not really.
Yeah.
I honestly wouldn't mind seeing the Black Adam movie.
I want that too. I mean, like, I still have my problem with like we talked about it. Like, I as a DC fan can really be okay with them doing a villain movie or an anti-hero movie, even though I think in the spirit of like true cinema and all that stuff, like I would rather see the hero's journey rather than like, what does the bad guy do to kind of like earn his stripes, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I really like The Rock, and I just really want to see what his take is going to be. If you've seen the deleted scenes of Shazam, they make mention of him. Did you know about this?
I know that in the story of, well, sorry, spoilers here.
No, it's fine.
In the story that they tell, like I think it was like the 6 or 7 brothers that were given the power of.
Yeah. So it's all the wizards. Yeah.
Yeah. And then they show that, one of them went rogue and was,
right,
doing something really
bad. So aside from my thoughts that that's the best Harry Potter movie we've seen since Harry Potter, and my little joke on that, which you guys can hear in the reacts, I genuinely feel like it's a good movie, but the deleted scene, they're sitting there in the little throne room and all that stuff, and they're all just chatting like, oh my gosh, it's so amazing to have all these powers, and then they look down like, who's that chair for? And then it just kind of like a fade to black. Like that was already enough of a tease. I guess David F. Sandberg, the director, cut it, and a bunch of other little scenes too, which there's one with him and Mary, not Shazam, but as Billy, where him and Mary have a conversation about like running away and like what it means and all that stuff. All the deleted stuff is, I think, on YouTube right now, so you guys can go and check it out. But it just sucks because I think there was even more heart to this movie than there already was, which is kind of crazy. But I really love it, and I think it just didn't completely find the audience that it needed to. I think marketing was just kind of average. I kept seeing a lot of Shazam, but I kept seeing the one image of him with the drink or him blowing bubbles, the bubble gum. And I was just like, you need to give people more. It doesn't have to be Batman v Superman where you're like, well, here's Doomsday, spoil the movie, sort of.
You could have shown him like falling through the air, like, because he can't fly right away,
honestly, I think if they had played up on the and I'm joking about it a little bit, but like the Batman v Superman part of it all, because now after the movies come out, you see the kid crashing the toys of Batman and Superman together, and then the dialogue that happens between them, we're like, I can't hear you from a distance, and then they have kind of that super showdown. I think if you had played up on more of the bigness, and I don't mean that as a pun because they did make a reference to big in the movie. If they had shown more of the spectacle, I think it would have appealed to a broader audience, because some people, go into superhero movies and they don't just want comedy. Some of them want the big spectacle. And while it might have spoiled some of the bigger scenes of the movie, I think that still has to be a selling point to some people, because some people go, oh, so he's just a kid who becomes a big guy who maybe throws a punch and catches a bus. I guess that's cool. It might be a little funny. And then some people just kind of go, I can skip this one. I'll wait for Blu-ray or DVD. So I think that might have hurt it. And maybe where they released it too wasn't super great. But either way, it made enough money to net a profit, so I think we're gonna get a sequel. It's probably just gonna be a little later after Shazam, or after the Shazam spinoff, Black Adam. Moving on, we have Superman talk. So I'm gonna come right off the bat here and say I do apologize. We had our speculation, all the Shazam stuff and everything, and one of our sources did tell us back in November that Henry Cavill was apparently a part of the movie, and then dropped out due to kind of contract negotiations. As we came to find out later on down the road, he was supposed to be in it, and I don't know really what the whole truth to the matter is, but most recent reports are saying that he was there. It was close, and I guess the behind the scenes story was that when Tom Cruise like busted his leg up in Mission Impossible, they had to go back for more scenes. And he had to keep the mustache on for longer because of that. And as a result, he ended up having to skip Shazam. And then we got all of the issues that happened with Justice League with the mustache gate and all that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So long story short, Superman not in it as we had reported it. And I'll take the blame on that one, because the one thing I want to do with this show, and I've said it from the very beginning, is try and keep things as honest as possible. So if we hear something and I get physical evidence that proves it, like I got some evidence, I probably should have got a little bit more. But sometimes things happen, and it just sucks that it didn't go exactly the way that maybe we had wanted it to. So, what do you think about Superman as he stands right now? Are you excited for the idea that we could get someone new, or that maybe down the road we could get a new movie, or the fact that we might get a Supergirl movie instead?
I mean, what do you do? What would you do with Superman right now? You don't really have. All people know is the Justice League version, or right, the Batman vs Superman version.
Yeah.
Which some people liked, some people didn't. It's kind of a 50-50 thing.
Yeah. I think easily you just put a Man of Steel 2 sequel out, and you just make it somewhere in the vein between Justice League and Batman v Superman in tone. Like, he can be serious, but he also can still save the cat from the tree. You know what I mean? Like, he can still be the Boy Scout, but he can still go through a bit of an emotional crisis. Like, if you want to kind of simplify it and say even like Lois is in trouble and is being threatened with her life or whatever on the line, and he's trying to figure out how he can save her, and whatever, it's emotionally wrenching for him, but at the same time, like, he still will catch someone who's falling out of a building or something like that, and he'll still kind of have the puff out the chest moment, like, I'm here for truth, justice, in the American way, that sort of thing. It can still work, but I think it has to be a blend. You can't go one extreme or the other. I think somewhere in the middle there is that perfect Superman. So he can be that guy. I just don't think they've really tapped into the magic of what he brings to the table. So yeah, we'll see. The Supergirl idea that I guess is floating around, good or bad?
I still don't think it's good.
What if it's so good that it makes you forget about the TV series?
Well, they would have to not go in a very progressive route to do that.
I think they probably would. I mean, I actually like the Supergirl movie with Helen Slater. She did a really good job. I mean, it wasn't a fantastically, produced film, but like...
was it like late 80s, early 90s that movie came out?
Yeah, so I mean, it doesn't like visually hold up, but like for the time, like I remember growing up, I had... my uncle would burn VHSs, and he gave me Superman 2, Supergirl, and The Untouchables. And not one of these things is not like the other kind of a thing, for sure, because The Untouchables is not like a Superman movie.
No.
But I grew up watching those and like Rookie of the Year on these old VHS tapes, and I really fell in love with that version of the character. And like she was kind of soft spoken, but she was still strong willed at the same time. And I don't know. I like if they decide to go, okay, let's take some of the focus off of Superman for a while and we'll put it on Supergirl. Cool. I just don't want it to be like the rumor that's going around that they're going to try and rebrand the universe with Supergirl now kind of retconning Clark's origin, because they'll be like, oh, she came in, and then because of her, things are different now, and then there's also a Superman in this universe, and like it just starts getting really weird. Honestly, I'm kind of still worried about the DC universe on the film side because they're going separate, but we all know that they were at least at one time connected. So it's weird to have Aquaman and Wonder Woman go way out in front, and then everyone else just kind of trickles to the back. And then be like, oh yeah, well, there's that Wonder Woman. She might see Superman down the road, but it's not the same Superman. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, that's all our super talk there. Batman, though, as you brought up before, we got Robert Pattinson now as our Cape Crusader, set, obviously a younger Batman. Rumor mill flying across the board with all sorts of nonsense about like it's gonna have like 7 villains and it's gonna be this and it's gonna be that, and this happens every single time one of these movies comes out, where everyone just throws everything to a wall and goes, oh well, I heard from a friend of a friend who's Matt Reeves' closest buddy that he wants to do it he wants to do an Arkham City or Arkham Asylum movie. And I am not saying that those things won't happen, but I've seen this a million times now where they always do this shit, and I'm not putting it against them to do maybe more than one villain, but at the same time, I think DC has heard enough from people where it's like, okay, we're not going to throw everything at the wall because every time we do that, it blows up in our face. And I think a lot of lessons have been learned from Justice League. If anything, I could see the Arkham thing happening. And if you see people, they're going to just be in a cell, like shouting out at Batman, who do you think you are? You put us in here, that sort of thing. That's totally fine. But to act like, oh, we're going to have the Penguin, we're going to have Catwoman, we're going to have everyone under the sun, and they're all going to be these big name actors that are just going to sign on for this movie, I really, really don't believe it. Because unless that movie is exclusively in Arkham, how do you even flesh out those characters? Like you can't
exactly.
You can't even tell a story where Alfred is in the mix. I mean, they'll probably not do a big origin, which is fine because they've done his origin enough that people already know. Dead parents, angry, fight villains, got it. But at the same time, I don't see any world where a person is going to sign on unless it's the best script they've ever read to go like, oh yeah, I'm Josh Gad, I'll be the Penguin who sits in his cell and goes and like that's it, that's my only thing in the movie. Like, who wants that? I mean, unless the paycheck's really good. But anyways, I think it's cool that we got really close to having Nicholas Hoult as Batman 2. I genuinely believe, and through one of our sources, that they're looking at him to be the Riddler. And if that is the case, I am all for it. I think Nicholas Hoult would be a fantastic Riddler. He's right around the same age. I think maybe a couple years older, or maybe younger. I forget, but right in the same ballpark. And I think he'd make a fantastic antagonist for a detective kind of Batman who's just starting out, kind of in his early years there.
Mm-hmm.
And he would be a perfect foil for someone who, it's been reported time and time again that this is going to be a detective Batman story, which I think we've all been wanting for quite some time. So if that's the case, it's got my money. I don't want to see the million villains thing. How about you?
Yeah, the multiple villains would be a bad idea.
Quick thing that just came to me. Who would you have as a love interest, or would you not have one at all?
Don't have one.
Really? Okay.
Don't have one.
I kind of wanted to say just like Vicky Vale, but I mean, they did her on TV recently, and they also did, the original one with Joker had her as the love interest. So yeah, I don't know. I kind of want there to be one because I want to show the duality of his role as Batman and Bruce Wayne. Cause I think that's always the most interesting thing, is duality of a hero, which is one of my issues with Marvel, but I can get on that later. I want to see some of that, and I want to see just kind of a good first outing that everyone just goes, it's good. It made money. Let's see a sequel, because I want more sequels from DC. I don't want any more reboots or any reimaginings or any of that stuff. I just want it to be good again. Moving on here, we've got Wonder Woman 84. Not a whole lot. She's not going to be at San Diego Comic-Con this year. DC has pulled out of the Hall H stuff, but they will have a nice big presence on the main floor. But we did, as kind of like almost like an apology, but at the same time of like, we really don't need to be there. An image of her in her golden armor, which I never thought we'd see on the big screen. What do you think about that?
I thought it looked cool.
Me too, right? I'm curious how it plays when she's actually wearing it, in battle. But I'm sure that'll be like the final battle with her and Cheetah, and then she'll need to suit up for whatever reason. And I'm sure it'll be great. Trying to think. Oh, yeah. Did you get a chance to see the old mall video that they put out around, I want to say like fall of last year, of Wonder Woman lassoing up people inside the mall?
No.
Okay. I didn't know if I sent it to you or not, but basically, for those who don't know, there was this leaked footage. It might have even been from San Diego Comic-Con last year, where it's very 80s. She's in a mall. There's two guys. She lassos them up, and then she like jumps over the railing in like this mall food court kind of area, and it's really badass. And I got a chance to see it while you've been away, and it looks so good. I really just want to see what this movie turns out to be. I think we just need more Wonder Woman in our lives. I think that's really what we're trying to say. But yeah, you're totally on board for Wonder Woman 84. No issues as of now.
It's just not a whole lot of information right now, so it's just kind of like, I mean, the first one was good.
Yeah.
I think they just need to fix their main villain issue a little bit from the first one.
Yeah, it's hard with Wonder Woman, but I think if you got Kristen Wiig being mostly herself and then like being like a human version, we haven't seen the prosthetics and all the stuff that they're going to do when she becomes Cheetah, but I think that she's going to make for a very compelling villain. Yeah, because I think it's her time to shine, and she hasn't really had like a breakout film role. I think everyone just thinks of her as the comedy person. So next up, we've got The Flash. Okay, so actually updated from what my notes have here, we might actually have a Flash movie coming now, weirdly enough.
4 years in the making.
Yeah, geez. So we were going to get it, and then it got scrapped, and then they were going to bring on someone new, then it got scrapped. Well, I should say the director did. And it probably went on its third retooling until they got the writers. I don't want to screw up their names, but the writers of Spider-Man Homecoming were going to come on and direct it after just doing game night for Warner Brothers. And then I guess the full version of it, as far as we know, is that Ezra wanted to go kind of more in line with what Snyder was doing, where it was darker, more multiverse centric, and very cool, like without really making it a big deal, like Messenger of the Gods kind of thing, where like he's so in line with like the Speed Force that he's just zipping through time. And that's, I think, where all the Flashpoint stuff came from. So instead of going that route, I think the writers of Spider-Man Homecoming and all that, who were going to direct it, they came in and they were just like, well, we want to kind of do more of like a traditional origin. We want to lighten up the character. We want to make it fun. Basically do what they did with Spider-Man, but with Flash. And I get that. Like, I'm more than happy with either one. I'm a big time travel proponent. And at the same time, I really love origin movies, and I like, a classic Flash tale. So I would have been happy with either one, but I guess there was a butting of heads and difference in ideals. So Ezra goes off to Grant Morrison, great writer, who's doing a great run on Green Lantern right now, if you get a chance, and said, hey, help me write this thing. And while it's not been confirmed whether that script that's been proposed is what's going forward, it looks like we've got a new director from Andy Muschietti, the director of the It movies. So it sounds like they would go in a dark direction. Warner Brothers right now is taking a lot of these kind of up and coming horror directors and going, hey, if you guys can keep this relatively low budget, we can make back our money instead of doing the $400 million Batman v Superman extravaganza movie. We can make our money back if we come in with like 150 million and then, come out of it with maybe, I don't know, like 400 million plus as out of the box office. That's, I think, really what they're looking for right now is come in low, create a profit, garner interest so that they, we can keep making more sequels and then maybe build up to the quote unquote event movie down the road. So do you want Ezra to stay as Flash, or are you ready to just have them recycle with someone new?
Might as well just keep him.
I know honestly, aside from a couple jokes, which I blame Joss Whedon for, which didn't totally land in Justice League. And I don't like his whole oopsie moment where he fell on Wonder Woman, which was so Jossy that I did not like it. But, as a whole, the way he was playing up that character, I was really gunning for Barry. He might have been my favorite part of the whole movie, if I'm being honest. So I really just want to see more from him. I feel like he, much like a Jared Leto kind of character, has a lot to bring to the table if you just give them the chance with a good script. But I think some misdirections and stuff kind of getting lost in the mix ruins the opportunities for these characters. So I think if nothing else, he should get at least one more shot before they go, all right, this isn't working, and then move on. So next up, that could also mean that Cyborg could be moving forward too. I'm hearing that, the Snyderverse as it was, not super well loved and respected, but at the same time, I'm hearing that the studio still loves those actors. That's why they've kind of kept them in limbo for so long. Do you want to see Cyborg move on with a movie with Ray Fisher in the role, or do you want to see them just go, we're moving on?
I liked Ray Fisher in the role.
Me too. And actually, I think it was just yesterday we saw more photos from what Snyder wanted to do with that character, and just some really emotional stuff, him seeing his parents from a distance in some sort of dream sequence. There's him, I think after his father gets disintegrated. I don't know if that's a spoiler for something that never, came to the big screen, but him pounding on his father's gravesite instead of them digging up dead bodies. God, sorry, Justice League really makes me mad sometimes. Him pounding on his father's grave and just agony and, regret that it's his fault and all this stuff. Really good and emotional scenes. Not to mention the fact that they were actually trying to give him an actual origin, God forbid, with him with the football scene and all that stuff just got omitted because, God, I don't even know anymore. But the Snyder thing is just taken on a whole nother level. It was trending worldwide in just these last few days. And it was hugely trending in, I think it was India. It was trending again in the States and other places around the world too. Do you think we're ever going to get to that point where we see a Snyder cut in some form?
Oh, I don't really know.
Yeah, I think we will, just because you can't have this thing be what it is and not acknowledge it in some way. I'm sure there are probably plenty of people at Warner Brothers Pictures right now going, oh my gosh, will these guys just shut up already? But I think it's kind of that thing of when you have a Mormon or someone come up to your door and we'd like to talk to you about, no, shut the door. Okay, no, shut the door. Keep doing it to them until finally you go, okay, fine. What are you talking about? All right, sure. I'll at least humor this idea, and then maybe the ball will start rolling, because it's hard to deny something that's garnered this much attention and for so long too, because I can't remember anything of recent memory that's had this much of a social media impact or this much of a following that hasn't died off by now. And it just seems like even if you cut off one head, it's like Hydra and it just comes back with another one. And somehow with what seems like more numbers than before, it's a very weird thing. So I hope that it finally does get, the light of day. Because apparently there was a work cut, and this was the thing that I talked with Jay Oliva at San Diego Comic-Con about last year, where he's like, yeah, there's a version that exists, and he wouldn't tell me all the specifics, but he's like, they couldn't say no to something if they didn't see something to say no to. And I'm like, that's a really good point, because when they present these films, there's like the work cut, I think is what it is. And those work cuts are like a really unpolished version of what the movie's going to be, so that the studios can go like, okay, we've got something here. I think this could work. And I think they looked at what Zack said and they're like, oh, this is going to be more Batman v Superman. This is not the direction we want to go. So then the timing was bad. They bring in Joss, because of Zack's unfortunate situation, but it's an easy way to slip him in, change the movie, and then boom, we got what we got. So, again, I'm not hating about the whole situation. Like I said, we got what we got, and it is what it is. But I do feel bad because I can see so many people just really want to see what would have come of this. So much so that they did the Warner Brother or the Snyder interviews down in LA, and I don't know, they showed like some versions of his cuts, which would have been cool. Maybe one day we'll see it, but yeah, it really is a shame because I feel for the guy. Like, I think he had something good to put out there and we just never got it. Next up, we were talking before about Superman and all the Mission Impossible stuff. Well, a funny little factoid just popped up through Chris McQuarrie, the director of Mission Impossible. We could have had a Superman and Green Lantern team-up movie.
Huh.
Did you know about this?
No.
Okay, so this just came up the last couple days. McQuarrie, working with both Tom Cruise and with Henry Cavill, was, being courted by Warner Brothers a bit, saying, hey, we hear you've got some good ideas. Let's hear them. So he pitched, I could be wrong on this, but it sounded like Man of Steel 2, where there's an introduction of Green Lantern into the universe that way. How? Why? I reached out to him. I have not heard back yet, but I would love to know what that would have been. I have all sorts of awesome theories about how this could have worked. They could have done a space adventure. They could have done an Earth adventure. I would have been sold on all of it, but they just went, no, it's not what we're going for at this time. And he moved on to other projects like the next 2 sequels of Mission Impossible. So very disappointed on a personal level, because I would have loved to see what McQuarrie would have done with Green Lantern. Because he was going to have Tom Cruise in the role, and I know some people are 50-50 on that because they're like, I don't want an older Green Lantern, but I saw images of him as Hal, and for an older Hal, I could totally believe that. And how much more marketable could a Green Lantern movie be than having Tom Cruise directed by Chris McQuarrie? Right?
Is that a role Tom Cruise would want to do?
He wanted to. Yeah, it was, I want to say fall of last year. He said that, we're workshopping some things, and it was all this stuff. And people thought, oh, we are getting Tom Cruise's Green Lantern. And then after a while, we didn't hear enough about it. So people were like, oh, I think it's more rumor than anything. Because the idea was that, and this might be hearsay, but that he was going to be an older Hal that was going to kind of have like a training day thing with a younger hero, whether it's Guy Gardner or Jon Stewart or whoever. He was going to kind of effectively pass the torch on to someone different than Hal, and it would have been a whole space buddy cop kind of movie, which would have been kind of cool. But whether it was Training Day or a buddy cop, either way, I just want more Green Lantern. That's all I'm asking for, but it's me. So, what would you have liked to have seen? Would you like to have seen Superman with Green Lantern, or maybe Green Lantern with, other people of the Corps?
Honestly, I don't really know much about Green Lantern, so
fair enough. Okay.
I'm not really informed enough to give that kind of opinion.
Yeah, I know. And the last thing really that I had was that, I talked to Jeff Johns about it. I can only say so much from our emails and everything, but he gave me some insight that things are moving along, and I just want it to come out already. So maybe one day we'll get that movie, and I'll be very, very, very happy. Other ones here, just kind of going through the rest of these as we round it out here. Birds of Prey, still coming, hearing great buzz. Black Mask is reportedly the quote-unquote best villain DC's had in a long time. I don't believe that, and not because I have any issues against... oh, man, I wanted to say Obi-Wan, Ewan McGregor. There we go. But the images I've seen don't really give me a lot of Black Mask vibes. But maybe he's great. I don't know. What do you think? Yay or nay?
Yay.
New Gods. No real progress, but I guess because of some Snyder stuff and Ava, who's directing the New Gods movie, there was a little bit of a tussle over the character of Darkseid, which is why we may or may not see Darkseid in the New Gods movie. What do you think? Yay or nay?
Nay.
You don't want New Gods?
I guess I haven't really watched it either, so maybe I'm not.
No, it's okay. It's kind of like how I feel about Eternals. Like, I know, like, the very surface level stuff. Like, I couldn't tell you, like, the adventures that they went on and all that stuff, but, like, I like the characters. Like, they bring something cool to the table, so, you know, I actually like the New Gods better because they both properties have like a warring factions kind of thing about them. But I don't know, something about the New Gods characters of all the of those kind of properties. I don't know. They just stood out to me more. Maybe because I like Darkseid and Orion a little bit more. But yeah, we'll see. Still a lot to go with that movie for sure. Aquaman, I got to bring up $1 billion movie. How great! Like who would have thought Aquaman would have made $1 billion?
Nobody.
Not James Cameron. Sorry, I like to make digs at James Cameron from time to time. We might get a Trench spinoff, and Aquaman 2 seems like it's already picking up some steam. They signed Jason Momoa onto a big picture deal. So, I mean, do you want to see more Aquaman? Do you like the idea that they're doing the Trench? What's your take on Aquaman as a property right now?
Honestly, not that bad. Aquaman was a good movie. I think there are maybe a couple of story elements to just sort of improve upon, or just presentation. But other than that, I thought it was good.
Yeah, I know it sounds kind of contradictory to the character, but I actually kind of want to see him go on land because he has some stories where he's dealing with surface level problems and no pun intended. But like, yeah, stuff on the surface that he's, you know, and he has to deal with for whatever reason. I don't want to get on a whole spiel about it, but I want to see him out of his element. You know, I want a literal fish out of water story. See how it goes. Then, I mentioned the Snyder thing. He did reveal Darkseid. And then last week we got Joker. So we're not going to see him at San Diego Comic-Con, which sucks. Getting really good word of mouth, which I was very surprised because there's a lot of thoughts on Joker, at least on my side. What do you feel about Joker right now?
The movie?
Yeah, do you think that it's something that's selling you, or is it, I don't know why this exists?
It just kind of looks like an art house Joker movie.
Yeah, so to make things worse, and again, going back to using controversy to create some chaos and maybe some cash, the director Todd Phillips came out today and made this whole thing about like, I'm intentionally trying to avoid the comic books or something to that effect. And like, he's trying not to give us the Joker. He's basically giving like this whole reimagining. And that's his perspective. And I'm sure that's not the case because you obviously wouldn't do a complete reimagining and still have characters like Bruce Wayne or Thomas Wayne and all of them in there if you weren't having some nods to the comics. And we know that there's Easter eggs peppered throughout the entire film. So it's not completely dismissive of DC Comics. I think this is one of those things that a director says so he can get the, as you put it, art house kind of credential where it's like, oh yeah, I'm so unique and I'm so bold and I'm breaking norms and standards and everything you'd expect about a traditional superhero film or a villain film. I'm going to give you something different. And then everyone goes, oh wow, it is so different. And then it'll win a bunch of like indie awards and things like that. I think it looks very intriguing. I know there are a lot of people who are like singing its praises from top to bottom, which is weird because no one's actually seen the full movie, which that's why I have a problem with all these people who claim to be insiders who really haven't seen anything yet, because they haven't really shown it to anyone. But I think that it'll probably end up being, it'll be unique. It'll be interesting, but it doesn't really, I guess, tickle my fancy in the DC passion fan base kind of perspective that I want to bring to any of the other movies in that universe. So yeah, I'd much rather see Wonder Woman 84 than I would this, art housey Joker kind of perspective. But I will say it is a clever take to see, like, in the trailer. I don't know if we talked about this at all, but like the idea that when he finds himself going down a crazier route, he finds himself more happy. There's a staircase shot in that trailer where every time he goes down, like as he plummets himself further, he actually finds himself becoming more happy. And every time he goes up and towards the light, he actually finds himself more miserable. And I think that's a cool showcase of psychotic duality, where it's like, it doesn't seem like something that you'd be excited about to go more crazy, but it's almost like an experience of like letting yourself go free. And that's kind of interesting. Also, quick thing, because we're now rounding out on DC, I should mention, you might hear a loud pop. That is people who have not gotten over the 4th of July yet. So I'm just throwing...
Oh, nice.
Yeah, one just went off. One of those, I don't know, those shells or whatever they call them. They go, bah. So, yeah, that's going on outside. So, let's get on to Marvel. Your favorite.
Sure.
All right, let's run through it real quick. We got TV. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I still think it sucks. What do you think?
I stopped watching it after season 3, I think.
I am behind by like a couple episodes, but man, I just like I'm not here to just hate on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I really am not, but I don't know why it's still doing what it's doing. I mean, the fan base seems to be there, but I don't know what it's for, because they've specifically come out and said, oh no, we are definitely not involved in the Marvel Cinematic Universe in any way now. Like there was an official statement that came out like, no, they're definitely separate. We're not going to even tie back to any of that stuff. We're not going to do callbacks to Infinity War. We are our own thing now, which is so weird because it wasn't, and then it was, and then it was again, and then now it's not. So I'm kind of done with it, but my superhero I don't know, addiction, I guess, has me still watching this stuff because I like to torture myself sometimes. So we're both in the nay category on that. The Gifted is now canceled. Yay or nay?
Nay.
Yeah. Sorry, man. I know you really liked it. But I kind of yay about it, if I'm being honest, because it didn't really go anywhere in the last season. I could just feel it. And then some of the new actors they added just couldn't act their way out of a paper bag. It was rough to watch. I wanted to love it because of what they brought to the table, but they just didn't have the budget and the staff that could make that something as special as it could be. So I feel for them, but yeah, I'm kind of glad it's done now. Moving on, we've got Runaways getting season 3. They're adding Cersei, who's going to be played by Elizabeth Hurley, which is going to be awesome. I really haven't seen her in anything since, like, what was that one? Bedazzled, or man, I can't remember. The one with her and Brendan Fraser.
Oh gosh, Blast from the Past, I think.
No, Blast from the Past was that like retro one. No, the one where she like messes with him and gives him all the wishes. I can't think of it.
It's Bedazzled.
It is Bedazzled? Okay, cool.
Yep.
When I said it out loud, it sounded like the thing that you do to embroider a jacket or whatever. So it just sounded wrong, you know? But yeah, like they're moving into like the Hulu aspect of things, and they're pulling away from Netflix. And I'm sure you're probably going to see them pull away from the ABC stuff in time too, because everything's moving to Hulu as a part of the Fox Disney deal. So, you know, they're getting a bit more market share on Hulu, and TV properties are going over there. So we're getting 4 animated Hulu shows. One is going to be Howard the Duck. We're getting MODOK, Hit Monkey, and then Tigra/Dazzler. Any of those stand out to you in a big way?
Yeah, Dazzler does.
Yeah, like, I mean, I like Tigra and I like Dazzler. I think what I got from Dazzler in Dark Phoenix was enough. Like, I don't need a whole show on her, but having her kind of be partnered up with Tigra could be kind of cool, I think. For me, it's MODOK. It's such a weird character, and you couldn't do it in live action. I could never see it happening. But man, you do an animated MODOK show, that would be all kinds of crazy. And then they're saying Patton Oswalt is going to do the voice.
Damn.
Yeah, so I'm sold on that. Interesting that they just announced 4 shows like that, but see how it goes. We probably won't see them for a little while, though. We might not even see them until maybe spring of next year or fall of next year. Yeah, because all these deals are making everything slow going, and that's just how it goes. Then they're going to apparently have a team up, according to the report, called The Offenders. So...
The Offenders?
Yeah, like, we had the Defenders, now we have the Offenders. I can see why Howard the Duck and MODOK would definitely be offensive.
Oh, gosh.
I've never heard of the Offenders as a term in Marvel Comics before. Maybe I missed something, but sure, I guess. I just want the starter shows to be good, and then we'll talk about team ups and all that stuff. Netflix has now, as we talked about before, canceled everything of their Marvel universe. I just finished Jessica Jones season 3 yesterday, and it was not good. It was better than season 2, which, I mean, I feel like you could have given me a bag of poop thrown at the wall, and I probably would have been more entertained, to be honest.
Damn.
I mean, season 2 is just rough to watch. Like I kept like gunning for it. I was like, yeah, they're gonna do the turn here, and it's gonna be. Oh no, they didn't do anything. Well, what was that for? So that season was so underwhelming. But this season was okay. But it was kind of like what I was saying before, like how Men in Black International was, where it's just like it just was there. Like they had potential for some really cool character introductions and to really make you go, oh my gosh, how badass was that? And this character is finally going places, and Jessica just doesn't go anywhere. She's doing the same things. You know, she kind of still hates the world for everything under the sun and just hates everyone for it. And I don't know, maybe it's because I'm not big into her comics that I missed something about it, but every character should go through some sort of progression. And she's the one character I felt like in the entire little universe that they started who just it went right back in a circle. Like she's literally in the same spot that she started in season 1.
Well, I think in the comics she what is it? I think she like mind melded with like Captain Marvel and put her in a coma, and that's why Jessica Jones could fly.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I keep forgetting about that.
It's too bad she didn't do that before the Captain Marvel movie came out.
I will say this. There is a Captain Marvel reference and another hero reference in the show, which is really fun, but it's so quick and so throwaway that it's not like you can't even get excited because A, we knew that there was never going to be another season, and B, like they just dismiss it so quickly, like, oh yeah, okay. And then they put the thing into a literal box, and then, yeah, I don't want to spoil it for anyone who's mildly still excited by it, because it's not a bad season. It's very drama and intrigue. It just feels like a CBS drama pilot rather than a show with superheroes and characters that you really want to invest and see them grow and have an arc with. She's just back in the same spot, and it's disappointing because I really wanted more, but yeah. That's Jessica Jones, but I'm really sad that we'll never get that Iron Fist season 3. Everything that Raven Metzner was telling us just sounded so good. And obviously we all love Daredevil. So even Luke Cage had really good standout moments that I enjoyed. And where they left it was very weird that you wouldn't pick it up anywhere else after that. I will say Jessica Jones kind of talks about Luke Cage and like what he's up to in a way that I won't spoil, but it seems like they decided to do something with his story that did not seem like the way that they ended that season. So I'm kind of
go figure.
Yeah, I'm weirdly satisfied because it almost took the last or the ending of his show and kind of gave it a happy ending by talking about it on another show. So it's weird. Yeah. Speaking of things that really disappoint me, Cloak and Dagger. Let's talk about Cloak and Dagger.
Oh God. Did you really expect that show to succeed?
I watched the second season thinking, it's got to get better. It's got to get better. And I know I always sound like the DC guy who's shitting on Marvel stuff, but like really, I don't get the appeal of Cloak and Dagger. I know that they're doing the CW thing of like, hey, we're stand out, we're different, we're cool, we're edgy, but like, there's nothing of real substance to that show, at least in my opinion. And if you guys love it, by all means, keep loving it. But I just watch it and I go, who is this for? Like, I really don't get it. What's your take on Cloak and Dagger?
There's such minor characters in Marvel Comics that making a TV show about them appealing that isn't teen drama fueled is extremely difficult.
I know. And well, see, that's the thing though. They don't have to be. If you put enough investment into them, the idea of a guy who can kind of like teleport and then someone who throws light daggers is not a crazy thing. Like, it's kind of cool if you work on it. Like, they should have done more of a them pairing up and fighting crime kind of thing rather than I come from the wrong side of the tracks and you come from the right side of the tracks. When we meet in the middle, we make a perfect harmony. Like, it's cool as an initial concept, but when it's 2 seasons of them doing like, you're from one side and you're from the other side, it's the same thing over and over again. And then they retread back to the pilot so many times that it's just like, I want to see these characters grow. And I thought after season 1, they're like, okay, we got it out of the way. Season 2 came around and they're like, they just introduced another guy that had like, and maybe he's in the comics, maybe I don't know enough about him, but basically he plays music and like lulls people into a trance. So they go into like a record store and he keeps playing records, and it's a cool concept, but it's not really well explained, and the whole thing just comes off very cheap with their production. So
yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Like, I don't know. It's just so underwhelming because I really like, at least on the basis of what those characters are, I see the potential, but I don't see what they're trying to do with them. But yeah, I want to keep moving along here because we still got a little bit to go. We've got Legion final season. I think it might be over now. We got to see some Professor X. Pretty cool. Where are you with Legion? Have you watched any yet?
I've gotten through the first 2 seasons,
okay,
so I'm up to date.
I was gonna say with season 3 though, that and Archer are 2 things on FX I need to catch up on. I'm also trying to figure out what happened with the show that I shot with FX for the show Devs that's coming down the pipeline. I think it's probably coming in the fall, so keep an eye out for me possibly appearing on that show whenever it appears. But yeah, like, I really loved Legion. I didn't get through all of season 3 yet, but I'm really excited to see what they do. Are you sad that this was the final season though?
A little bit.
Yeah.
I kind of saw it coming though.
Yeah. I mean, FX is so good with like the idea of the mini series that I didn't want them to run the thing into the ground. So I think 3 seasons, very edgy, very stylized content. Like that's where you want to go before it, kind of jumps the shark. So I think season 3 is a good place to end it. Next up, we've got Hulu going to live action as well. I forgot to mention that with all the Marvel Hulu stuff. They're going to have Ghost Rider and Hellstrom getting their own shows. Thoughts? Yay or nay?
Depends which Ghost Rider.
It's going to be Robbie Reyes, the one that you saw in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
No.
You know what? I will say this. He was the best part of that show when he was on. I really like that character. I don't think it's the best special effects I've seen for what they needed to pull off, but he looked better than Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have the charisma Nicolas Cage does, but
no, who does, right?
I would say I mean, okay, maybe Robbie Reyes is good. I don't know.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I always like the motorcycle, or even like the cowboy version. Like I've got that as a character in my Marvel Future Fight game on my phone, and there's just so many cool little versions of Ghost Rider that exist. And I don't know, I feel like they need to really come out the gate with something that pops for people, because even though he was good on the ABC show, he's good in comparison to something that was bad. And he didn't like it wasn't like the Hulu, or I'm sorry, the Netflix shows where they came out the gate swinging, and they were just like, had everyone talking. No one was really talking like, oh, but that Ghost Rider, he's going places. I mean, they were just like, it was cool that they added him and he made it a little bit better, but he wasn't setting the world on fire. No pun intended. So I'm wondering why they went in this direction. I would have just been like, you know what, scrap that. No, there's no way that people are going to be connected from the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. stuff to this show. It's a whole new character. We're going to do some big things with him. Just wait for what we have in store with Robbie Reyes. And then they come out with a new actor, better special effects, and people are really blown away with it. Which is why I'm actually more excited for Hellstrom, because we saw what they can do with like a devil character with Lucifer. Now imagine adding some special effects and some really cool set design. I think Hellstrom has a chance to be really cool. That's the one I'm excited for the most. Would you rather see Hellstrom, or would you rather see Robbie Reyes as Ghost Rider?
I guess I can give Robbie Reyes a chance.
Okay. All right. So I'm gonna kind of go a little faster here. Now we're going into the movies. Venom getting a sequel. Yay or nay?
For the most part, yay.
Okay. Versus Spider-Man, yay or nay?
Is it going to be Tom Holland Spider-Man?
Yes.
Weird. So, it's a weird clash, because Venom was completely hardcore.
So the idea is that I guess Holland's contract is for like maybe 5 to 6 movies or something like that. After that ends, or at a certain point down the road, when they get to Venom 2 or whatever, in his contract, he can appear and have like a showdown with him in Venom 2. But I don't know. It's really tricky, and there's not a lot of details on it right now. So I guess we'd have to wait and see, but I want to see them square off with each other, but I want to see another Spider-Man movie, and I want to see another Venom movie before we get to them. Yeah. Next up, we've got Morbius, looking pretty interesting. I still think it's weird that they're in Europe, but they're supposed to be in New York. Like they're filming in Europe, but it's all New York sets. So, it's a weird thing, but it looks like a really cool setup that they've got going. And I believe him actually as Michael Morbius. Yay or nay? What do you think on Morbius?
I would say yay.
Yeah, I think me too. They added Tyrese, which that's a nay for me, but
Tyrese.
He's been, you know what? At this point, he's been campaigning so long to be Green Lantern or Blade or all these other things. And some people are even speculating that he's going to be Blade, but they're giving him a different character from the comics.
Honestly, Tyrese's Blade would be kind of cool.
Is it? I thought you were going to say kind of bad.
I mean,
I don't think we need Wesley anymore. But
yeah, unfortunately, Wesley Snipes won't fit the role anymore.
Yeah.
It's a certain thing.
There's a lot of things to unpack with that one, obviously, but yeah. I'm just glad Tyrese is finally getting a comic book role, even if it's not a big one. Maybe this will finally shut him up a little bit and have him go like, okay, well, I did that. I was a part of a big movie. That's enough.
Yeah.
He's going to be. Yeah. They're putting him in a biopic too for someone. I wanted to say it was James Brown, but that's not right. I just heard about it today. So we'll probably talk about that in another episode, but maybe his career will finally start taking off again. And hopefully he won't cause any drama like he did with the Fast and Furious movies.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is coming in July 2020 is what they're saying for Morbius. So we got that next year. Next up, Dark Phoenix, which we talked about in our reacts, and we hope that you guys liked it. It did bomb at the box office. I don't know if you heard about this.
Oh, you don't say.
Well, they're saying it bombed worse than Fantastic Four. So here's why.
Really?
Now, technically, it made more money than Fantastic Four did by like $100 million. But the difference is all the money with the reshoots that they did to all the money that they put into it to kind of get it to where it was. So all the money that was wasted, and this is a problem that happened with Batman v Superman. If they hadn't done the reshoots that they did, and maybe even the same for Justice League, the movie probably would have been at least kind of at a on par level, but the loss of profit is so much more that it ended up hurting this movie. So some people in our chat, like, we have a great chat room, by the way. I really want to give a shout out to them. I love all those guys. But, you know, sometimes someone will come in and they'll be like, oh my gosh, something tanked, or something is the end of the world. It's not. And one of the conversations that got brought up was, where does, not Bryan Singer, the other one, the director of Dark Phoenix. I can't think of his name.
Kinberg?
Yeah, Simon Kinberg. Where does he go from here? And I said, you know, you think about Joss Whedon, you think about Zack Snyder, they had certain misses in their career, right? And Kinberg was just starting out. Like, he's been attached to a million properties as an executive producer, but this was his directing role. Snyder, Joss, you know, they go out, they do a little indie movie here or there, or something smaller. They come back they got an Army of the Dead, or they've got I don't know, whatever Joss is up to now. I don't even remember, but they come back in their own way. It's just not maybe going to be as high profile as like a Dark Phoenix or a Batman v Superman kind of movie. And which is fine. Honestly, if you're a director in Hollywood in general, you're doing fine in your life. Like, even if you're the McGee's of the world, they're making good money doing what they do. So, like, you could call it a fall from grace, sure, but you know that's could be said about anyone who had a high profile thing that doesn't anymore. So, I'm sure Kinberg will be fine. I think he had a lot of good ideas. He just didn't have a really good support system to work with, and I think that really showed as a result of, you know, some of the movies and how they were received. So, unfortunate that Dark Phoenix didn't do well, because I thought it was okay. And New Mutants, do you think that one's going to be a yay or an A?
Mostly nay.
I was going to say, personally, it's a yay, because I just want to see it at this point, but
yeah, I do
it'll
too,
probably be an A.
Yeah. Right now, it's just kind of
Okay. Spidey is soaring to new heights. Some pun intended there, I guess, with the way that he's been doing in this new movie. Far From Home, we are going to do a reacts for that probably tomorrow. As much as it soars, I did feel it was a little messy in some spots. I felt kind of the same way about Into the Spider-Verse, ironically enough, but also kind of for different reasons, different movies, obviously. How do you feel about Spider-Man as a whole right now? Like, whether it's Into the Spider-Verse or as Far From Home is right now?
I would say Spidey's in a good spot. I would agree. Far From Home had a couple of minor issues, but beyond that, it was still a good movie. I think, regardless. Oh well, I mean, I hope Spider-Man stays in Marvel's clutches for a while longer before Sony gets their grubby hands on him again.
I mean, yeah, Sony still has their hands, but the creative is definitely being well overseen by Marvel as to the how and the why characters are doing what they're doing. So I think it shows in how everything's being crafted over there, and I like it. We'll talk about that on the next episode, but moving on though, we also have some more MCU stuff with the Avengers. They're re-releasing their movie just so that pretty much they can beat Avatar. Yay or nay?
Neither. Like, at this point, like, who cares?
I think it's like 30 million away, so I kind of just want to give it to him at this point because I think they re-released Avatar at some point, but it's funny the backlash that the movie's getting now, and it's all because when they re-released it, they're like, "Hey, bonus features and all that stuff," and then people went in and they have a scene at the end. There's apparently like a Stan Lee tribute, which is great, and then some other little things. But one of them is a deleted scene that was, I think, the original opening, which is Hulk like saving a burning building, and he's in a different suit, and then he brings him down on like a satellite dish or something. But the CGI is so much like a work print version that people are making fun of it now, like they did with the mustache gate thing with Superman. Yeah.
No.
I mean, the point is it's a deleted scene that they tacked at the end of a movie. It's almost like watching it in the comfort of your home, just in a theater. But the way people are responding to this, it's so over the top. It's funny.
But no, why would you put in a half-finished CG scene?
Exactly. And see, that's the thing. Like, I didn't think about it enough. And I haven't seen it other than like through YouTube or whatever, because people threw it up on YouTube right away. I'm like, I guess I don't have to go and see Avengers again. I've seen it like 2 or 3 times now, so I'm good, obviously. But the additional scene, I think the thing that kind of bothers me about it the most is not because it looks bad and all that stuff. It's because this is like your definitive film. This is like all 10 plus years or whatever of hard work went into this movie and making it the best it could possibly be. And then it ends with Hulk in like this really shitty CGI thing. Like, I think that's a really weird way to like kind of bookend it. Even though that's not the theatrical cut, so to speak, it's additional features. It's like a really weird thing to tack on. It would be like watching Batman v Superman and then having like some like third grader like draw a sketch and go like, "Bye everybody," and like with like weird characters. It just would really feel out of place. That's all I'm saying. So yeah, that happened. I hope that they do beat Avatar, because then I can make another quick jab at James Cameron again, and that'll be fun. Then we move on to Black Widow, who is kicking off kind of the new phase of Marvel films. So we've got Kate Shortland directing. We've seen pictures of Taskmaster, and I think he looks terrible inside of a tank. And then they're saying that, yes, Yelena Belova is going to be the like adversary or person who squares off with Black Widow the most. What are your thoughts on Black Widow right now?
I don't know. Kind of a quagmire.
Yeah. I don't think it needed to happen. At least now. It should have happened a long time ago, in my opinion. It should have happened probably with Hawkeye in the mix, even if like he was the number 2 to her.
Oh, yeah.
I just think it's in a weird spot where they're saying this is before the events of Infinity War. So, cool.
Wait, what?
Yeah, so it's not like set in the 90s is what I'm hearing. I'm hearing that it's like somewhere between Age of Ultron and Infinity War. So, yeah, because of people are saying because of her hairstyle and all that stuff. And I'm like, I don't know if I care that much about it. But man, when I saw Taskmaster, that was the thing I took away the most about it. Cause like I was fine. Hey, give me a Black Widow movie. The fact that you're giving me one at all makes me happy. But then I saw Taskmaster, who is normally a very intimidating looking character, albeit a bit goofy at the same time too, with the skull and the hood and all that stuff. But like, I thought if they made Taskmaster cool, there's a chance that they actually try and do like Moon Knight down the road. Kind of the same visual look to them. Maybe not the same power set, but the idea that they go ahead and make this movie and it has him in it could be really cool. But much like the Avengers video game that they just announced at E3 and did not get a lot of good response,
it's very bland.
Which also featured Taskmaster. I don't know. Maybe Taskmaster isn't the way to go, but I thought that they would just keep it simple and do kind of a I'm trying to think of the Batroc the Leaper kind of vibe from Winter Soldier when he faces him on the boat, where he's just kind of like a simplified version, not a lot of padding and armor and maybe not the hood. But this version looks like a Power Ranger. I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
You've seen the image, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So people are like, oh, it's the lighting and all that stuff. And maybe it is, but it looks really blue. And my working theory is that maybe this is one of those things that they tease us with. But a quick working theory that I had, because I don't want to dwell too much on this, is that I think he'll be part of some sort of like militant police force when he starts off that secures that area, probably after what happened with like Age of Ultron or something. Okay. So as a part of that force, kind of like what they did with Crossbones, he'll start up within the ranks and then he'll go rogue. Then he'll don his own suit and then he'll fight off against Black Widow. That's my working theory. And we'll talk about that more as time goes by for sure. Eternals, we kind of talked about it before when we were talking about New Gods. Chloe Zhao is the director. I'm sure she'll do all right. Angelina Jolie, I believe, is Elysius. Kumail Nanjiani, I believe, is Makari. Richard Madden should be Icarus. And Selma Hayek, who they recently casted, I think is going to be Circe. Some people are saying the opposite with Angelina and Selma. At this point, like, I put it on the internet and I got flack from some people who just make it their mission to go, oh, you're the worst and you're so wrong. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. It's just my speculation. I don't really care if I'm right or wrong. Either way, we've got 4 great actors to play the Eternals. Are you excited for this movie?
I would say for the most part. I've been doing a bit of research on the Eternals, and there's some interesting stuff there.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I didn't even realize the conflict between them, and I forget the name of the race, but it's like the people that are they're almost like a half step of a race below them. I don't understand how the hierarchy works with it all, but it seems kind of interesting to me though. So I just want to see what they end up doing as a story with all this. I don't know if it's like some people have been saying it's a love story. Some people it's like almost like class warfare. I just want to see what the plot line is at this point. But yeah, I'm giving that one a yay. I assume you are too?
Yes.
Okay. Into the Spider-Verse 2 has been confirmed. I think it was just like over a tweet, but we know that it's coming. And if you want to watch the first movie, you can actually watch it on Netflix right now. Excited for Into the Spider-Verse 2. Yay or nay?
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
I like it too. We talked about it before. I do feel like it gets a little messy because it has a lot of characters, some of which are just there and never really talked about, like some of the villains. I'm just like, okay. But I want to see more Spider. Just give me Mark 1 armor Spider-Man. I want people from whether it's 616 or I don't know, what is it? It's like the 1804 one that Neil Gaiman did.
Oh,
yeah,
that'd be cool.
I want to see like Pilgrim Spider-Man. I want to see some weird stuff. But yeah, I'm excited. Black Panther 2. There was a tweet that got recently deleted. Actually, one of our own in our community reached out to the director, Ryan Coogler, I think it was Ryan Coogler. I take that back. No, that's the next one. But Black Panther 2, there was a tweet. It was about Namor. I don't know if it got deleted. Do you want to see Black Panther versus Namor?
Yes.
Yeah, you do? I don't know. I guess I don't want it to be Aquaman's ripoff because I know a lot of people will look at it that way, especially comic book wise.
Namor's a little bit different than Aquaman.
Oh yeah, no, he's definitely more of like the tough guy, doesn't take anyone's crap. The more I say it, the more it sounds like Jason Momoa actually. But he's always kind of fell into like the anti-hero role, especially when he deals with the Fantastic Four. But yeah, him squaring off against Black Panther could be interesting. I don't know. Maybe it's just not how I see that character, but I'm all for it if they finally bring him to the big screen. So, speaking of other tweets that went out that have since been deleted, Doctor Strange 2, there was talk of a edition of Clea, or I can't remember if it's Clea or Cleo, who's going to be the love interest in Doctor Strange 2. Are you excited for that?
Yeah. Doctor Strange was a phenomenal movie when it came out.
Oh, I know. Really liked it. Still blown away by some of the visuals in that. Very, very much like Inception. You guys can hear our reacts on that one because that's still floating around out there. And again, no pun intended. But yeah, they're saying that it's going to be in production by the end of the year, and Brother Voodoo might be the villain. Is that who you want to see, or would you rather have some big like Dormammu kind of presence?
No, like Dormammu is like a freaking intergalactic being of his own dimension. No, if anything, I don't know. There's a lot of stuff you can do with Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
That would be interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really honestly care who he fights at this point. I just want to see more of the awesome stuff that we got with him, whether it was in his movie or even in Infinity War. Man, he kicked so much ass, especially taking on Thanos there. I mean, I was like, where has this guy been? Like, I want to see another movie from him. Like, it got me so hyped up for another Doctor Strange movie that I just think it needs to happen sooner than later. And it sounds like we'll be getting there by the end of this year. So next up is Shang-Chi. We're getting a Shang-Chi movie coming pretty soon here. Casting is incoming. We will get it sooner than later, I assume. Then, well, actually, are you excited for Shang-Chi? Yay or nay?
Meh.
Mr. Martial Arts doesn't get excited about Shang-Chi?
I mean, I'll have to dig a little deeper on Shang-Chi.
Yeah, I know. There's some stuff that touches on some things that would be considered racist by today, and there's a lot of that sort of stuff. Kind of the kind of the whole Mandarin kind of scenario thing, if you catch my drift. Yeah, so that sort of thing, and I still think it's cool, even if they get like Ludi Lin to play him, or I'm trying to remember some of the other ones. They were even speculating that they would get what's the guy? The one that you really liked who played Chirrut Imwe from Rogue One?
Donnie Yen.
Donnie Yen. Yeah, they're saying that they might bring him into the cast.
That'd be so cool if they got him to be Shang-Chi.
I think that if Marvel's going to do it, they're going to get as many martial arts people that are at the top of their game that they can, because they really need to sell this, and it can't just be like Iron Fist season 1 or even season 2. It has to be next level martial arts. Then lastly, just Guardians 3. It looks like we might actually get it. And like I mentioned, my experience on set while I was doing devs, they told me about all sorts of stuff that was happening with that movie, which it did technically get shelved for a bit. And we've got James Gunn doing Suicide Squad right now. But when he's done, they're going to get right back to it. The question is, will it have Thor in it? What do you think about Guardians 3 after everything we saw in Avengers? Like, what's your kind of last take to round out Marvel here?
I think if they have Thor, it'd be cool. I don't think he should be a focus of it. I wouldn't mind it if he like shows up for a bit and like helps them out on whatever adventure's going on.
Okay. Yeah, see, I'm as Guardians of the Galaxy all the way, honestly. I really, I know. I like
the idea.
Yeah.
But I would like to see, well, I mean, now that Gunn's back, just let him finish whatever story he had planned out.
Yeah.
Rather than just kind of do whatever, fits, to keep Thor in the storyline kind of thing.
Yeah. I don't want to have Thor in there to feel shoehorned by any means. Like I really want it to kind of be the search for Gamora. Or wait, I'm trying to remember. Yeah, because Gamora's the one who's not with him. Because or something like that. It'd be like their version of the search for Spock.
Yeah, pretty much.
But really funny, and honestly, Chris Hemsworth has been one of the funniest people in recent film memory, and what he did. Sorry, in Avengers Endgame, without spoiling it for anyone who hasn't seen that $1 billion movie by now. My God, I just, he just has such a charisma and charm. Imagine with James Gunn directing him, how funny that movie would be. So I really want to see it. I hope it happens. But we're definitely at least getting one more Guardians movie before they close up shop on that franchise. So very excited about that. And yeah, I think that's it for Marvel this week. So we'll cut to a quick commercial break and we'll talk about Marvel at San Diego Comic-Con.
Now here's something we hope you'll really like.
This week's sponsor is Loot Crate. For less than $20 a month, Loot Crate gives the geek in you a special treat with each box. Loot Crate is a subscription box service with more than $40 worth of geek, gamer, pop culture gear, collectibles, apparel, etc. You'll have until the 19th at 9 p.m. Pacific to subscribe and receive this month's crate. And when the cutoff happens, that's it. It is over. Head to lootcrate.com/nerdrage and use the promo code NERDRAGE to get 10% off your crate today.
And now, on with the show.
Okay, and we're back. All right, so honestly, not a whole lot that we wanted to talk about because we definitely covered a lot today. And this will probably be the last time we do an over 2-hour episode. But
yeah,
yeah, I know. We're both feeling it, but we had to get kind of back in the swing of things. Now that we covered all that stuff, let's just talk about one thing up to the present that we're really excited about, and that is Marvel is coming to San Diego Comic-Con. How do you feel about this?
That's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, because pretty much every other studio has dropped out of Hall H. I'm actually hearing through my Warner Brothers representatives that I know that we're actually getting some Hall H stuff, but it's like with the animated properties, but nothing like in a big presentation. There's no Fast and Furious. There's no DC presents something character. This is the fourth phase. We're going to get that at Comic-Con. Oh, yeah. How excited for you for this are you? Man, I'm losing my words just trying to say it.
I'm excited to see what they present. I'm assuming it's going to be Phase 4.
Yeah, it will be Phase 4, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be post Endgame and whatnot.
Right.
The only thing that worries me a little bit is what the movie lineup's going to be like.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that I'm slightly worried about.
So I think this is what I'd really like to do here. Just us doing a fan speculation and maybe even a little bit of educated guessing as to what we think is going to be on that list. We'll just do Phase 4. We don't want to speculate a Phase 5 and beyond, but we can throw those in there if we want for fun. Let's just assume it's going to be 6 films. If you could pick 6 films, whether based on what we know or what you personally believe would be down the pipeline, what do you think we're going to get out of the next phase?
Okay, so
give me your 6.
So what I already know is that Black Widow movie is going to be coming out.
Right.
Black Panther 2 probably.
Yeah, more than likely.
Doctor Strange will be coming out as well.
Yep. So
that's 3. As far as the 3 movies that, we don't really know about yet, maybe.
Yep.
Well,
we do know that they're going to have Eternals. I mean, they've already casted that one. So Eternals.
So that's 4.
They could give us Shang-Chi.
I think that's still like 2 or 3 years out yet.
Okay. So you think that could be our Phase 5?
Yeah. It's going to be like really late Phase 4, if that's even possible.
Okay, how about this? I'll say 7 films in this phase.
Okay.
We'll say 7.
All right.
Okay.
So basically that's 2 or 3 movies left. Okay. So...
So we got Black Panther, Doctor Strange, Eternals, and Black Widow, along with the possibility of Shang-Chi, but I'm pretty sure it'll happen this time around. So give me your 2 movies that have not been announced yet that you think you'd want to see.
All right.
In this phase.
This will probably won't happen.
Okay.
But I would say a good Ghost Rider movie.
A good Ghost Rider movie, okay.
And then you go into The Fantastic Four.
Man, you got me on that one. Okay, so I was gonna actually transition into it myself with that. Yeah, so I like your idea. I think at least one of them is definitely possible. I think obviously with the way that they're handling Ghost Rider on TV, they're probably not going to bring him to the big screen for a while.
Shut up. It could happen.
I know. I'm sorry. But anyways, it seems like Marvel is trying to do the Supernatural thing on the TV game. So I'm not going to put Ghost Rider in there, although I would really like to see what Marvel Studios would do with it. I think, assuming that the 5 that we mentioned are happening in this phase, I'm going to, for the sake of argument, pretend Shang-Chi isn't happening. Not because I don't want it, but because I could totally see that being pushed. Same thing with Guardians of the Galaxy 3 to the next phase. So if I could keep 3 spots open, I want to say some sort of introduction of the X-Men. I would love like a real first class movie.
Yes.
I think it'll probably happen after my last pick. And I'll tell you why in a second. And then something to fit in with all of the current See, I want something that goes in with the current line of Marvel Universe. I would say either a Hawkeye film that's really respectful to it, or a Young Avengers.
Young Avengers might be a little too soon.
They've got the cast that's young enough, and after what we saw in Endgame, you'd have to add a couple more characters like Hulkling or whatever, that sort of thing. But I think enough of the groundwork has been laid that we could see it sooner than later. So even if it was like the tail end of the phases, because again, those first 5 or even first 4, that's going to take up our next probably 3 years, give or take, maybe 2. So we've got some time to really develop and let young actors and actresses grow up into the roles. I think it's more just a matter of when we get the Young Avengers. That being said, my last pick is pretty much the same as yours. And after what we saw in Spider-Man Far From Home, which is a mild spoiler here, but I think it's just a fun thing to pepper in. We'll mention it tomorrow in greater detail, but there's a scene in Spider-Man at a certain point where I don't have the exact phrasing, but I think it says, we can't wait to show you what we have in store. And then it's like one of those train terminal things where it goes like, this is stop 1, 2, 3. They do 1, 2, 3, 4 with different colors, but the 4 is just a question mark. And I'm 90% sure they're teasing us with Fantastic Four. And I think what a better way to go, here is your reemergence of the Marvel Universe, than giving us a Spider-Man who is basically the new Tony Stark, who's really...
which I don't like that idea, by the way. I don't like it.
Oh, no. I'm not saying that that's something I'm excited about. I'm saying the fact that Spider-Man is in the more prominent role that Tony Stark once had. The fact that he's... Not that he is the new Tony Stark, literally, but we could talk about that tomorrow. But the fact that now he's like out in front in the universe as like the big guy, because all the former Avengers have kind of taken a backseat. He's the young blood who's stepping out in front. That's what I mean. So having him out there, and then starting to go with, again, the first family of Marvel, Fantastic Four, and really kind of like almost giving a rebirth to the universe and starting.
Dude, do we have a team up with Spider-Man and the Fantastic Four?
If he shows up in like a credit scene, oh my gosh, come on, are you kidding me? Like
in a Fantastic Four suit.
I mean, okay. I mean, you could even go into like bombastic Bagman and all the funny stuff too.
Oh, I don't know if that'll happen, but
well, I'm just saying, yeah. Like, well, it's not like we're gonna get Future Foundation, and that's always the easy thing to do. Is you can always jump the gun and go like, oh my gosh, what if they went into like crazy Reed Richards and all that stuff? And like, you got to pump the brakes. You got to start with normal Reed Richards first.
Yeah.
But through all of that insane hype that would come with it, like we can start seeing like Galactus or Annihilus and all these cool characters that come from the Fantastic Four. So I'm really hoping that my belief that what we saw in Spider-Man was a tease of bigger things to come, and the former Stark Tower is going to become the Baxter Building. Or at least wherever the Fantastic Four is going to be doing their research and all that stuff, because some false reports have been coming through like, oh yeah, we know everything and we're absolutely sure that it's going to be a tease of the Sinister Six at the end of Spider-Man, and it's going to be Norman Osborn who's going to be looking down from his tower on Spider-Man, plotting menacingly and all this stuff. And I even jokingly thought, because one of our insiders that we have was telling us that like, oh yeah, there's a possibility that the person in the tower could be Kingpin, while everyone was talking like the Sinister Six thing was a must. And I went, I teased the idea of Kingpin, but like, I really didn't think we were going to get that. I didn't really think we were going to get Sinister Six, because Marvel's learned their lesson. They're doing things very subtly and under the radar. Like, they'll tease certain characters, but they're not actually going to give them the whole time of day. Like, okay, we're going to make 3 villains in one movie, like Amazing Spider-Man 2 did. And I totally get that. And it's a smart move. Like, they're doing it very slow, very methodically. If we ever got Sinister Six, it wouldn't be until like a 4th Spider-Man movie. It's definitely not the next one. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
So the fact that they're teasing anything big for this universe, alone, the fact that we could end up getting Fantastic Four is super exciting. And that's why that had to be the last one on my list. And I think that will give birth to the next phase. It'll be the last film in all of this. Because Marvel does one thing really well, and that's do these big they do more than one thing well. I shouldn't say that. But one thing that they do really well is these presentations. And then if you remember, they did Serpent Society, and then they changed it into Civil War, and everyone lost their minds. I think what they're going to do is they're going to be like, oh, we're going to try again for Inhumans. Oh, wait, that was from the old thing. We're going to scrub that, and then boom, there's Fantastic Four.
Yeah, that's a real shame with the Inhumans that it got turned into a TV show and rather than a movie.
Yeah. I mean, hey, that's a possibility that they might revisit that franchise, but I think now with X-Men in their stable, they're not going to touch that for a while.
Yeah.
I think if anything, you're going to see the Inhumans appear through Fantastic Four, because then you can even showcase the relationship between Crystal and Johnny.
And then you have a fight between the Inhumans and the X-Men.
Exactly. All that stuff can come, and that'll all be Phase 5. I mean, obviously we're jumping the gun a little bit, but that's what we love to do, and that's why we love doing this show. So, now that I've thrown my pencil down, I want to say thank you guys for a great episode. I apologize that it went a little longer, but we knew that this one was going to be a little heavy.
Yeah.
And thank you to Brad for staying up as late as he did, because you're a 2-hour difference from me. That being said, please, even if you're a first timer, go check us out on all of our stuff. I am redoing our website right now. I want to hear what you guys think. If you have any suggestions, or want to be on the show or anything like that, hit us up on Facebook, Twitter, or even just shoot us an email at nerdragepod@gmail.com. On Twitter, we're at the nerdragepod, or even myself, I'm at Ryans_ramblings. You can hit us up at any of those places. And on Facebook, just put in the Nerd Rage Podcast. Beyond that, like I said, the website is thenerdragepodcast.com. You'll probably see small changes to it as I'm retooling things tonight alone. But yeah, we've got all sorts of stuff there. We have our sponsor back. We had Loot Crate. We lost Loot Crate because obviously we weren't putting on any episodes, and they're back. So you'll be hearing that earlier in this episode. And a couple more new sponsors and cool stuff that are coming down the pipeline. We're looking forward to giveaways. If you want to still support us, I kept the GoFundMe for our show up, so you guys can still pledge money to us that way. Or if you want to see special episodes from us, go hit us up on our Patreon and find us at the Nerd Rage Podcast. Beyond that, there's our TeePublic store. Go there. Should be just put in the Nerd Rage Podcast. We're going to add new shirts. Brad's working on cool designs all the time. Maybe he'll get one of them up that I've been pitching to him. But we've got some good stuff and a lot more good content coming your way. So look for us in the future, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. For the Nerd Rage podcast, I've been Ryan Anderson.
Now Brad Learman.
And we'll see you again next time.